Transport Minister Darrell Vaz says the new CNG buses and new technology will help stop the theft of diesel oil from the JUTC.
I'm hopeful that 25 will be the year that we put behind us the issue of the theft of diesel oil, which has been costing the JUTC and the taxpayers multi-millions of dollars per year. We have a plan.
There was a record surge in tourist arrivals in the final week of 2024.
Public commentator Dennis Chung says the launch of the government's Spark program will benefit Jamaica's economy.
It's definitely needed. It comes at a good time for the economy. If you were to pump $46 billion into the economy, that's a good boost.
In news from the rest of the world, the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago is calling for all state attorneys to be protected following the shooting death of a special prosecutor.
FBI says it now believes the New Orleans attacker acted alone.
In headline sports, local horse racing mourns the death of a stalwart.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, the country recorded a near 19% drop in murders last year. It's being hailed by the government as outstanding. How do we improve on the security gains? Professor of Sustainable Development at the UWI-Mona, Anthony Clayton, and Director of Research at Capri, Dr. Diana Thorborn, will join us.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we'll ask, what are your New Year resolutions for 2025? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio. You can also message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693 or leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, the Small Business Association of Jamaica is calling for government intervention to ensure commercial banks pass on interest rate reductions to their customers. President of the SBAJ, Garnet Reid, will join us.
And at 7, the government of Trinidad and Tobago says the state of public emergency, now in effect across the country, is in response to worsening gang warfare. The country recorded its worst ever murder tally last year. Lead editor for news gathering at the Guardian newspaper, Kejan Haynes, will join us. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, nationwideradiojm.com, and on the Nationwide app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Thursday afternoon, it's a new year, Thursday, January 2, 2025.
News at 5 is brought to you by KFC's Festive Feast. Crunch the holidays with a KFC Family 12 bucket and try KFC's new dessert biscuits. KFC, it's finger licking good.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. Nationwide News has learned that a second law enforcement agency has jumped into the storm surrounding the alleged illegal building saga that has engulfed the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, the KSAMC, and the embattled PNP councillor for the Maxfield Division, Dennis Gordon. Mr. Gordon, who is a prominent businessman and the PNP caretaker for East Central St. Andrew, finds himself at the center of the alleged controversy. This second law enforcement agency, which has taken a keen interest in the scandal, is reportedly reviewing the alleged steps that have been taken to regularize the building in question, which is said to have been constructed illegally. Siobhan Campbell reports.
The structure, located on Lyndhurst Road in St. Andrew, towers over the area with its alleged 3 or 4 stories. It's owned by a company tied to Gordon, the Jack Den Group of companies, and prominently bears the name Dennis J. Gordon Building. As Nationwide News first reported on December 19 last year, a law enforcement agency launched an investigation into how Gordon's company managed to erect the alleged illegal building that year, all without securing the necessary permit from the KSAMC. When contacted on December 19, Gordon declined to comment. Then on December 20, the Integrity Commission moved in, seizing key documents related to the alleged construction from the KSAMC, a move that escalated the matter to new heights. Both Gordon and Kingston's Mayor Andrew Swaby have since issued public statements regarding the alleged incident. However, neither has denied that the major structure now housing a medical facility was allegedly built without a KSAMC permit. Mayor Swaby did admit in his statement that Jack Den had submitted an as-built application, a process that raised eyebrows. Construction industry experts note that such applications are typically made when a building has been constructed without proper permits, essentially an attempt to make the allegedly illegal structure legitimate. If it turns out that the KSAMC permit was never obtained under Jamaican law, the building would still be considered illegal and could either face regularization or demolition. To make matters even more explosive, Mayor Swaby revealed that a stop order was placed on the alleged construction in 2023. This is after it was discovered that the building had expanded into a 3-story structure, despite Jackden having applied to build a mere 2-story facility. As the alleged illegal construction saga deepened over the weekend, Councillor Gordon issued a statement saying he had recused himself immediately from both the KSAMC's building committee and the leadership of the corporation's finance committee. In an attempt to distance himself from the growing controversy, Gordon insisted that he was stepping down even though his company had already initiated steps to regularize the alleged illegal development. Behind the scenes, multiple law enforcement and anti-corruption agencies are reportedly intensifying their investigation into a host of alleged violations. Investigators are said to be examining whether there was a breach of the Building Act and whether any public officials may have misused their power or engaged in misconduct during the alleged illegal construction process. Chevon Campbell for Nationwide News.
Transport Minister Darrell Vaz says the new CNG buses and new technology to be implemented should help to stop the long-standing problem of the theft of diesel from the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, in 2025. He was reacting to the seizure of several containers of stolen petrol seized in St. Catherine. The fuel is believed to belong to the JUTC.
The theft of diesel oil at JUTC has been a perennial problem for decades. As you know, we have already ordered and cleared 100 CNG buses, with another 70 to come by June of this year, with a further 100 in the next financial year. And that will be moving away from diesel. There are also some plans to put in some technology to be able to track the diesel, both going in and out of the remaining diesel buses. So I'm hopeful that 25 will be the year that we put behind us the issue of the theft of diesel oil, which has been costing the JUTC and the taxpayers multi-millions of dollars per year. We have a plan.
The seizure was made during a police operation at a house in Lakes Pen on Thursday morning. Approximately 45-gallon containers of petrol were seized at the location. No one was arrested. Minister Vaz says other security measures are already in train to stop the theft of fuel from the JUTC.
The acting managing director, Owen Ellington, former commissioner, has been working closely with the police and the military in relation to the issue of the continuous theft of diesel oil, and I'm sure that we will see results in the coming year, 25, this year.
Darrell Vaz, Minister of Transport.
The country recorded a surge in tourism arrivals between December 22 and December 30 last year. Senior advisor and strategist in the Ministry of Tourism, Delano Seawright, says close to 32,000 visitors arrived at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston over the period. He attributes the influx in part to the Joe Bogdanovich organized Freedom Street concert held at the National Stadium on New Year's Eve.
Nearly 7,000 more passengers landed at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston between December 22 and December 30, 2024, vis-a-vis December 22 to December 30, 2023. It was a busy holiday season indeed across the island, and there's no doubt that the Joe Bogdanovich led and organized New Year's Eve show accounts for a fair share of those increased numbers. To be more specific, between December 22 and December 30, 2024, they had about 31,646 arrivals into Kingston at the Norman Manley International Airport. And in 2023, between December 22 and 30, we had about 24,900 plus.
The event was headlined by Vibes Cartel. Several hotels in the corporate area also expressed that they were at full capacity as fans from all over the world flew in to celebrate the exonerated dancehall star. Beyond the concert, Mr. Seawright says 18 private jets landed in Montego Bay, St. James in a single day.
We have really seen a lot of celebrities and high-profile persons vacationing in Jamaica over the Christmas holidays going into the new year. Last Monday we had 18 private jets coming into Montego Bay with a number of celebrities, including Hollywood A-listers. The former leader of a major European country is also vacationing, and a number of other celebrities spanning entertainment, fashion, and of course a number of very senior business leaders, global business leaders, who are also here vacationing. So we're very happy about that, and most of them are concentrated along the north coast and elsewhere around the island.
Delano Seavright, Senior Advisor and Strategist in the Tourism Ministry. And dancehall artist Popcaan says operational challenges and miscommunication at the Freedom Street concert created unnecessary obstacles which led to a dispute between himself and one of the promoters, Cordell Scatter Burrell. During his performance at the National Stadium on Wednesday, Popcaan directed expletives at Burrell after an alleged 3-hour delay in gaining entry to the venue. Freedom Street marked Vybz Kartel's return to the stage after 13 years of incarceration. In a statement today, Popcaan's Unruly Entertainment sought to clarify the circumstances surrounding the controversy. Robian Williams reports.
According to Unruly Entertainment, Popcaan initially requested to use his band for the performance, which it says dancehall artist Vybz Kartel approved. However, the Unruly team says as the event approached, efforts to rehearse with the band were dismissed by Scatter Burrell. It was later communicated to the team that the use of the band was discouraged as it might reflect poorly on the event. The team says despite these challenges, Popcaan remained committed to delivering for his fans. They say upon arrival at the venue, access issues caused significant delays. Unruly Entertainment says at the main gate, its team members along with VIP guests were stopped for hours despite having proper credentials. The Unruly team says efforts to resolve the matter were hindered by mismanagement with inconsistent instructions from gate personnel. Popcaan said, quote, "I was standing with Rolex when he radioed Scatter to say he was at the gate with me. Scatter responded, me can't bother with Popcaan and him 100 man, not even knowing how many people were actually with me. The reality is it was just my team and Chronic Law's team." End quote. Both Popcaan and Chronic Law performed at the event, but the frustration became apparent during their performances as they hurled expletives at the promoters.
Scatter! If I never cartel, me buy me on! Me no there suffice a white boy and a rasta boy. Me no like people, my friend. Scatter behave, yeah?
Burrell responded in a 3-minute-long video posted to his social media.
Enough time artists go up on stage and diss up the promoter and diss up certain people because they know say the promoter have to keep the peace. Because I feel them event and them have everything for lose. And I was faced with that situation first night. Big Freedom Street concert, Kartel's return. When I see that individual make that statement loud and proud, put me in a dilemma right there, so cause how me I go address this now? How me I go address this without mashing up the show?
In the statement, Unruly Entertainment says it's important to note that Burrell's prior interactions with the team, including past professional disagreements, appear to have contributed to ongoing tension. The team says Popcaan has consistently declined invitations to perform at Sumfest due to concerns about the lack of respect shown to Jamaican artists, particularly regarding their creative input and accommodations. Unruly Entertainment says Popcaan has chosen to move forward, noting that, quote, "It's a new year. My team and I don't have scatter on our minds or thoughts. We're focused on continuing to deliver for the fans and elevating dancehall culture." End quote. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
Value Drug Pharmacy offers curbside pickup and delivery of your branded and generic drugs. WhatsApp your prescription to 876-881-6695. The time by Value Drug Pharmacy is...
It's 14 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rentokil Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rentokil is
30 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 28 out west in Montego Bay. Continuing the news, Public commentator Dennis Chung says the launch of the government Spark program will benefit Jamaica's economy. Chung is also a chartered accountant. The road repair program was officially launched last week. Mahiri Stewart has that story.
The government's shared prosperity through accelerated improvement to our road network, Spark program, was officially launched in East Kingston last Monday. The $45 billion program will see 10 roads in each of Jamaica's 63 constituencies be repaired over the next 2 years. Dennis Chung believes the program's launch will boost Jamaica's economy.
It's definitely needed. I think it comes at a good time for the economy also because, if you were to pump $46 billion into the economy, especially at the level of really what you classify as construction, that's a good boost. The fact also is that we are at a point where we have the lowest recorded unemployment numbers. So, combine this $40 billion coming into the economy with that and also the fact that interest rates are trending down, I think it will give the economy a good boost and also filter down to the average person on the street.
The Prime Minister first announced Spark during his budget debate in 2023. It was originally slated to begin last October. Mr. Chung says assuming the road repairs are carried out effectively, it could see the government gain favor from the public.
It should have a good political uplift for the government once implemented properly. I think that's going to be key. That doesn't mean that we should go out and just repair roads without doing the proper due diligence, the proper planning to ensure the proper drainage is there and all of that, which I'm sure will be considered. But it means that in order to maximize the benefits from it, they need to ensure that it's properly put in place. So we don't want a situation like what happened with St. Thomas, for example, where the roads were put in and then we had some digging up after that.
He believes the repair of troublesome main roads will also increase productivity, even as it improves the daily lives of many Jamaicans.
Back focusing on the main roads is a good thing, because if we can get it implemented where most of the traffic is, then I think that also be a good thing. I mean, when you think about it, the thing that people treasure the most is really their children and their cars. And if you can put a program like this in place, start rehabilitating some of the main roads to get people moving more quickly, then it saves on time, it saves on fuel costs, it's productivity. So it's going to be a positive from an economic and political point of view.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Trade unionist Helene Davis White is urging the government and security forces to do more to curb the emerging trend of mass killings across the country. Her comment comes amid the almost 19% reduction in murders recorded last year. That amounts to a reduction of 265 murders when compared to 2023. Mrs. Davis White says while the reduction is a positive development, the trend of mass murders may affect the national psyche ahead of the general election.
These mass killings that started last year, and I think they will have to contain, because if they don't contain it, people are going to feel that they're not safe in their communities, and that can affect any government's chance of re-election.
The country was rocked by a series of mass murders in 2024. The most prominent of the incidents occurred in Cherry Tree Lane in Clarendon, where 8 people were murdered in August. 5 men were also gunned down during a football match in East Kingston in October. The government says it will redouble its crime-fighting efforts this year.
The world in a minute.
The Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago is calling for all state attorneys to be protected following the shooting death of Special Prosecutor Randall Hector. Hector was shot and killed on Tuesday as he walked out of a church service with his family in Port of Spain. The shocking incident took place as TNT is under a state of public emergency. The 43-year-old prosecutor delivered a brief sermon moments before his demise, in which he wished the attendees a prosperous new year.
A very happy, a very prosperous, and a spirit-filled new year. God has been very good to us. Brethren, as we look forward to 2025, remember how good God has been to you. We have had a very bloody year in 2024 for Trinidad and Tobago. Right now, we are in a state of emergency. But regardless of what is happening out there, God has protected us. God has sustained us. And we are here to say, God, we are with you for now and forevermore.
Randall Hector, Special Prosecutor in Trinidad and Tobago.
The FBI says it now believes the man who carried out a deadly attack in New Orleans on New Year's Day acted alone. Officials say 42-year-old Army veteran Shamsud Din Jabbar killed 14 people and wounded dozens more when he drove a pickup truck into large crowds in the city's French Quarter. Jabbar, who was killed in a shootout with police during the attack, posted videos online proclaiming allegiance to the so-called Islamic State group. Police also say the Texas resident planted 2 explosive devices in cooler boxes before the attack, which have since been removed by authorities. The BBC is reporting that Bourbon Street, the scene of the attack, has now reopened to the public. 14 flowers have been laid against a wall at the spot where the attacker first drove into a crowd. To recap, the top stories making nationwide news at this hour. A second law enforcement agency has now taken an interest in the saga that has engulfed the KSAMC and PMP councillor for the Maxfield Division, Dennis Gordon.
Transport Minister Darrell Vaz says the new CNG buses and new technology will help stop the theft of diesel oil from the JUTC.
Record surge in tourist arrivals recorded in the last week of 2024.
Public commentator Dennis Chung says the launch of the government Spark program will benefit Jamaica's economy.
I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Roby Ann Williams.
Listeners, you can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
News at 5 was brought to you by KFC's Festive Feast. Crunch the holidays with a KFC Family 12 bucket and try KFC's new dessert biscuits. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90FM is searching for business development executives to help us grow our business and build lasting client relationships. If you have experience across all stages of the sales cycle and possess strong communication, negotiation, and time management skills with a proven sales track record, this opportunity is perfect for you. Join our team and work with the top corporate brands, media agencies, and of course, our on-air personalities. Enjoy networking opportunities, professional growth, and competitive commissions. Ready to take the next step? Send your resume to hr@nationwidenewsnetwork.com today.
Z Jamaica Robotics Conference, Tuesday, January 7, 2025, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Jamaica Pegasus Ballroom, celebrating the achievements of over 100 students and teachers who have achieved certification. Special guest speaker, Dr. Denzel Williams. Presentation by Zebra Robotics Canada. Sponsors, Lasco, Mothers, and Optimity. Tickets available for purchase at ztechnologies.aitix.com or contact 876-880-3301 or 876-499-3157. And tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Z Robotics Conference, Tuesday, January 7, 2025, at the Jamaica Pegasus Ballroom. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by Z Technologies.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. The local racehorse fraternity is this afternoon mourning the passing of former trainer and president of the Trainers Association, Vin Edwards. Edwards, who was president of the Jamaica Racing Racehorse Trainers Association for over 10 years, died today. In 2007, he was honored with the GRTA for his long and meritorious service to horse racing. That same year, he was conferred the national honor, the Order of Distinction for services to horse racing and community service. Chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, Solomon Sharp, says the passing of Edwards has left a void in the industry. Sharp says Edwards was an industry icon.
He trained some very interesting horses. So he has a storied career as a trainer, but most importantly, he was a real strength in the backstretch to all on the backstretch, and he tried to bring fairness and equality to the system. So a lot of administrators that would have been in charge of the track before would have felt his hand, and some would speak in a negative light. But in all establishments, and especially in sport, you need that one person, that one individual who is going to keep the administration on its toes, So I would say that there's a lot that Vin did for racing and the backstretch, and he's going to be missed.
That's Solomon Sharp. 24 Jamaican athletes made it into the top 10 of their respective events in the end-of-year global ranking of respected track and field magazine, Track and Field News. The field event athletes figured prominently in the rankings. On the men's side, the Olympic silver medalist Wayne Pinnock, he ends the year as the second-best long jumper in the world, with his compatriots Kerry McLeod in 5th and Tajay Gale 7th. The world and Olympic champion Miltiadis Tentoglu of Greece is the undisputed world number 1. Roger Stoner, who broke the Olympic record to win discus gold in Paris, finished the second in the end-of-year ranking behind Michaelis Alekno of Lithuania, with another Jamaican Travis Michael in 10th. Romain Beckford, who contested the Paris final, is ranked number 8 in the world in the men's high jump, while Jaden Hibbert, who just missed the podium in Paris, ends the year 5th in the ranking, with the Olympic champion Jordan Alejandro Diaz of Spain, number 1. Olympic bronze medalist Rajendra Campbell ends the year 5th ranked in the men's shot put. The Olympic silver medalist Kishane Thompson ends the year ranked number 2 in the men's 100 meters behind the Olympic champion Noah Lyles. Akeem Blake is 7th and Dublique Seville 10th. Rushan Clark 5th and Malik James King 10th are the Jamaicans in the men's 400 meters hurdles ranking, while Rashid Broadbell, the Olympic bronze medalist, is ranked 3rd in the 110 meters high hurdles, and Hansel Parchment in 7th. Shanika Ricketts, who won bronze in Paris, ends the year ranked number 3 in the women's triple jump, while Akelia Smith, who reached the Paris final, is ranked 6th. Daniel Thomas Dodd ended the year 9th in the women's shot put. Lamara Distin 8th in the women's high jump. In track events, Akira Nugent is ranked number 2 in the 100 meters hurdles, and Daniel Williams 8th. And Nikisha Price is ranked 7th in the 400 meters. Natoya Gould 7th in the women's 800, while Rochelle Clayton is number 4 among the women's 400 meters hurdlers. Cheyenne Summon is 5th, Genevieve Russell 8th, and Anjanette Knight 9th. Now, Tia Clayton is ranked 7th in the women's 100. The impressive showing by the field event athletes, in particular in the end-of-year ranking, is not a surprise to coaching legend Glenn Mills.
A special thanks to the field event athletes who, for the first time in the history of Jamaica's track and field, have outdone the sprinters and to save us from coming home without a gold medal. I also feel a certain amount of pride because I've been around a long time, thank God, and I remember back in the days when I was on the J3, and when we picked large teams and we hear the funds are low, the first category that they look to cut is field events. And so it has come full circle that now when they look, they will have to look at the sprinters first.
That's the Honorable Glenn Mills. National 100-meter sprint star Oblique Seville says he's motivated by a personal desire to honor the memories of his father, who passed away during the early stages of his career. The 24-year-old Seville was still a student at Homer Tech when he lost his father. Seville, who later went to represent Calabar at Boys and Girls Champs, where he became 100 meters Class 1 champion, has gone on to become one of the world's leading sprinters. The man, who reached the 100 meters final at the Paris Olympic last summer, says he runs with his father in mind every time he takes to the track, and he's determined to honor his name.
In my starting of my career, like high school, he was the one who always been there for me all the time. So it's just sad knowing that he didn't get to see me reach on this stage of my career and to make it this far. So sometimes you know that it maybe feel a certain type of way, but you have to just say, okay, if he was here, you know that he'll be happy and thing. But for me, I'm just glad that he actually motivates me before he died.
Seville is well advanced in his preparation for the upcoming season, and he told Nationwide Sports that things are progressing smoothly.
The preparation has been good because me and my team, which and my coach and everybody has figured out everything and has prepared a plan for me for this season. So everything has been going good. So it's just for me to just put in the hard work and put in the training and to see what result I can get out of it.
Seville lost a much-hyped 100 meters final to Keshane Thompson at the National Championship last year, and he finished well outside the medals in Paris. But he says his handlers are working hard to make sure there's no repeat of that.
The niggles that I have had last year is just for me to strengthen those niggles and to see how strong I can get for next year.
That's National 100 meter star Oblique Seville. That's sports. We're going to be back with much, much, much more in our main sportscast at 6:05 this evening.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. The time brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:31.
We are the best at what we do. At Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, we supply hose fittings and tools. We guarantee we can't be beaten when price and quality are combined. You brand us the Hose and Tool Boss because we deliver the most effective industrial solutions. Come in and experience the joy of shopping with Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. Call us 876-923-3936 or visit 173 Hagley Park Road, 2 Charlesworth Crescent or Montego Bay Trade Center. Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. More than just hoses. Now open every Sunday.
The management and the staff of the Jamaica Customs Agency extend the very best wishes to you and your family for a safe, peaceful, and enjoyable holiday. Whether you're effecting clearance at the port, traveling to and from the airport, or undertaking other transactions, we urge you to travel safely, use good judgment, and stay within the speed limit. We thank you for your support throughout 2024 and look forward to a healthy, prosperous, and productive new year. Happy New Year! From Jamaica Customs.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Alan Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast right here on Nationwide 90 FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Like everyone else out there, we're dads of varying amounts of experience who come from different backgrounds and often view the world differently.
We're definitely not perfect, but we are all brethren and we're all committed to this piece of rock called Jamaica.
Too often, there are no safe spaces for men to explore the issues which are important to us.
Plus, most of the content out there about parenthood is produced by women, for women. So we think it is important that we be the change we want to see.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaican Dads with a Z.
And definitely join us here on Nationwide 90 FM every Thursday at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m. for the Jamaican Dads podcast. It's a revolution in media.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. It is the 2nd of January, 2025. Welcome to the new year and the cover story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, and I want to say Happy New Year to all our listeners right across the globe. It is, as Siobhan said, the first Thursday in January 2025, and it's cover story time. And for this afternoon, we're going to look on the matter of crime. And the country registered a steady decline in major crimes in 2024. That's according to the latest statistics from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF. The figures up to December 28th show a near 19% reduction in homicides. Felicia Wright reports.
According to the JCF, 1,138 murders were recorded up to December 28. That's 259 fewer than the 1,397 recorded in the corresponding period in 2023. These figures are also the lowest the country has recorded since 2014. That year, the country recorded 1,005 murders. The JCF figures for 2024 show declines in all police divisions except St. Andrew North, St. Andrew Central, and Manchester. The St. James Division leads the tally with 125. Still, that's 63 fewer than the number recorded for the corresponding period in 2023. Portland recorded the least number of homicides with 13. And Trelawney has remained steady, recording a similar number as 2023, that recorded 24 murders. Meanwhile, among other major crimes, break-ins have increased by 6%, with 688 incidents reported. Shootings are down almost 10%. Incidents of rape have also declined by near 27%, while robberies are down by almost 21%. Dana Davey for Nationwide at 5.
Thank you, Dana. Well, as the focus tends to be, we're going to be looking at murders, and joining us to give a reaction to the figures and talk about the sustainability are Professor of Sustainable Development at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Anthony Clayton, and Director of Research at the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, Capri, Dr. Deanna Thorburn. I understand that Professor Clayton can only give us a few minutes of his time, and we appreciate it nonetheless. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Good afternoon, Siobhan and Brianna. Happy New Year to all of you.
So let's start with you, Dr. Thorburn. I saw a statement you made over on the social media platform X highlighting this achievement, this 19% reduction, noting that had it gone in the other direction, there'd be quite a bit of outrage. Why did you feel the need to go that extra distance to highlight this?
I think you're mistaking my comment for somebody else's. I think that the comment that I made was that we have seen a reduction, and it's very clear where that reduction has come from. It's come from the decrease in the number of gangs in Jamaica. We've gone from 350 gangs in 2016 to 170 today. And the decrease in gangs has come about because of the increased investment in the security forces capability and capacity. That was what I said. I do agree, though, that there would be an issue if it had gone in the other direction. I mean, this is fantastic. It's going in the right direction. It's trending down, and it's a huge drop. 20%, but near 20% it's significant. It's not a small number or not a small proportion in terms of the drop. But we're still very high up there. We're still on the top of the world's murder rate. So, yes, there's been a decrease. Yes, it should be celebrated. Yes, they should keep doing what they're doing, which is eliminating gangs. But we also have to be mindful that we still remain a very, very murderous country.
And Prof. Clayton, is this 19% in your estimation significant?
Well, let me explain a couple of points, if I may, because this is actually about the numbers. It's just purely about the arithmetic. But there's a couple of very important points that most people miss. Before I go there, I'd like to say that I do think that this is a tremendous achievement by the current Commissioner of Police, Kevin Blake. The reform program actually started under his predecessor, Tony Anderson. But a lot of the reforms were actually designed by Kevin Blake. And now that he is the Commissioner, he's driving them through. There's over 20 major reforms that have gone through or are going through. And so what we're seeing is a genuine increase in the effectiveness of the police force, as well as a huge increase in the budget for the security forces as a whole. But if I could make the two key points about the numbers, the first is that when we got independence in 1962, the murder rate was under less than 4 per 100,000 inhabitants, which was one of the lowest in the world at the time. And if you look then at more recent years, by 2017 we were up to 56 per 100,000. It came down a little bit and then it went back up in 2022 to 53. In 2023 we had one of our worst years ever. It was nearly 61 homicides per 100,000 people. So in 2024 we got 43.8 homicides per 100,000 people, which is a 19% reduction, but it's a 19% reduction from one of the worst years in our history, which was 2023. 2023 was unusually bad. It was almost as bad as 2009, which was also one of the worst ever years in our history. And as Dr. Thorburn has just pointed out, you have to remember that in 2022, when we had 53 homicides per 100,000 population, that was then the highest murder rate in the world. So in other words, what we're seeing is a 19% reduction from an almost inconceivably high figure. Since the 1980s, homicide rates in almost every country in the world have been trending down. There's only about 20 countries of which that is not true, and Jamaica, unfortunately, is one of them. So when you see a 19% reduction, it's wonderful, but it is really, unfortunately, too early to celebrate because it's a reduction from one of the highest homicide rates in the world to a level that is still one of the highest homicide levels in the world. The second point I'd like to make, if I may, about the numbers is if you imagine we got a 19% reduction last year, you have to ask yourself, how long would we have to keep getting 19% reductions year in, year on, year in, before we got back down to world average? And we would have to have a 19% reduction next year, and the year after, and the year after, and the year after, and all the way through to 2036. We would have to get a further 19% reduction every year for the next 11 years before we got back to where we were at the time of independence. As Dr. Thorburn pointed out, this 19% reduction is a tremendous achievement, and believe me, I do not take this lightly. But you also have to understand that we're coming from one of the worst positions in the world, and so it is going to take time, 10, 11, 12 years of that kind of rate of progress to get our homicide rate back down to something closer to world average. You have to understand this is not a sprint we're in. This is a marathon that we're running.
And we appreciate that point, Professor Clayton. But before I ask you the next question, you said 2023 was one of the worst years, but I recall that we had a reduction, I believe it was 8% in 2023 compared to 2022. So why then would 2023 be considered one of the worst years?
Well, 2023 we had just under 61 homicides per 100,000 people. When you're looking at comparative league tables, it's slightly misleading because other countries are going up and down as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually the most murderous country in the world, not in 2023, but in 2022, when the homicide rate was actually slightly lower than in 2023.
I think that the confusion here is the number versus the rate, because in 2023 we had 118 fewer homicides than in 2022. So if we're looking at absolute numbers, there was a decline. I can't speak to the rate or the rankings, but there was a quantifiable decline in the number of homicides. And so I think we just have to be clear what we're talking about in terms of rate and number.
Yes, I just pulled it up and it says we had a 7.8% reduction in 2023 compared to 2022, moving from, let me guess these figures right, 1,500 and 11 in 2022 to 1,498, I believe, in 2023. No, sorry, 1,393 in 2023. So 8% fall compared to 2022.
Yeah, if I could make just a general point here, but before we kind of lose the audience in the numbers, I think the really crucial thing is to look at the rate, because that's a standardized measure. So the best thing to do is to look at the rate per 100,000 population, which is the universal standard rate. And the second important point is to actually not get too excited if the rate goes up a little bit one year and down a little bit the next year. We have an unfortunate tendency to, as soon as the rate goes up a little bit, we start saying, oh, we need a new commissioner of police. As soon as it comes down, we say, oh, the government can take all the success for that. Neither of those things is usually true. What you get, if you look at the numbers going back over a slightly longer period, is you see that the numbers go up and down all the time anyway. And so you need to have not just 1 year, but you need to have a number of years before you can be confident that the numbers are actually going in any kind of a consistent direction.
Understood. We're up on the break, gentlemen and lady. Stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Clear your barrels and personal shipments with ease and convenience. Request a customs contactless clearance today through CCP at jca.gov.jm. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
5:46.
Label Crafts Jamaica Limited offers exceptional finishes that will make your product extraordinary at an affordable cost. The Temperature, brought to you by Label Crafts Jamaica Limited. The #1 choice for label printing is...
It's 29 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston, and 25 out west in Montego Bay.
The holiday season is filled with happiness and cheer, but it can also be a time of danger for road users. Here is a holiday road safety tip from Petrojam Limited in association with the Road Safety Unit.
If you feel extremely tired or as if you're about to doze off, don't drive. For long trips, have a relief driver who can take over if you become tired or sleepy. If there's no relief driver, pull over in a well-lit and safe area. Take a power nap and restart your journey. A road safety tip from the Road Safety Unit and Petrojam Limited, where safety is our #1 priority.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. We are talking murders. We ended last year with a 19% reduction in the murder rate for 2024 compared to 2023. And we are speaking with Professor Clayton. He is Professor Anthony Clayton. He is a professor of sustainable development at the University of the West Indies and director of research at the Caribbean Policy Research Institute. Dr. Diana Thorburn. We are trying to get to the gritty now. How can we keep this going and continually reduce the country's murder rate? Go ahead.
And Dr. Thorburn, I wanted to find out the matter of economic policies and community development. To what extent do you believe, in looking back over the last year, that it played a reduction in crime?
I don't think it played any reduction in crime, and wouldn't have, not just because of anything we would have observed in this immediate period, but we also know from years of data and evidence that employment rate, education levels, income levels are not correlated with our murder rate. We've known that for quite a while. So we have a natural experiment in front of us with our this unprecedentedly low unemployment rate. If there was such a relationship between employment and murder, there would have been a much huger drop in the murder rate without any of all this extra policing that we've been doing. So I don't think that has had any effect. This outcome is a direct response to the increase in resources that has gone into the security forces, their improved effectiveness, and their improved efficacy. So I think that is definitely, insofar as we're doing better economically so we can put more into the security forces, they're able to eliminate more gangs, and that's going to bring down the murder rate. But I think, I know we don't want to get caught up in the numbers, but I think that the point that Tony was making earlier is very important. 20% is great. It's a move in the right direction, and it's a sustained decrease because it comes from a previous decrease the year before. But even if we were to maintain this trend, we're still one of the most murderous countries in the world. So we have to be doing even more than what we're doing now. Definitely keep up what they're doing. Commissioner Blake and his team deserve to be commended and to be supported to continue to do the important work that they're doing to continue to bring it down. But we have to be thinking about more structural changes that are going to make a more sustained impact on the murder rate, for a more dramatic impact, because even at 20% a year, we're still at 2026 at 750 murders. For a country our size, that's just too many. I think that's the point that we should keep in mind, that we're heading in the right direction. But if we want to be a normal country, which we can be, bearing in mind that 70% of murders are gang-related, another 20% are indirectly related to gangs. If we take out even just the 70%, Jamaica is back where it was in 1962 at a murder rate of 4, which is below the world average. So anything that is going to disrupt the gangs, including the more effective policing, but other political changes have to take place for us to really come to a point where we can really be celebrating.
Which leads me to my point, Prof. Clayton. I know you have to go, Prof, but the final question to you. You indicated that it would take about 11 years, if we do 19% over 11 years, to really significantly bring down this crime stats that we have. Is it a situation that we have been very impatient in this country, and the politics also plays a part, where our politicians are forced to bring down the crime rate, when indeed it is not realistic?
Well, actually, no, I would not agree with that. And let me just clarify that. What I said earlier is that we would have to get a further 19% reduction next year, and then another 19% the year after that, and another 19% the year after that. And we would have to maintain that trend for 10, 11, 12 years before we could finally get our homicide rate down to where it was at the time of independence. That's the kind of progress that we have to make. Now, I think Dara made an absolutely crucial point. You have to start to look at the roots of the problem. Undoubtedly, we need more police officers, better trained police officers, better equipped police officers. That's absolutely indisputable. But we also have to address some of the deeper political and socioeconomic roots of the problem. We still have a major problem with corruption in this country, and we cannot ever forget that it's corruption that allows weapons trafficking and the lottery scamming and the funds to continue to leak to gangs. And until we do something about the dreadful problems that we have with corruption, that will not stop. And we have seen that in recent years, the current administration seems to be cooling off on the commitment to the fight against corruption, and that, I hope I'm wrong about this, but that would have confirmed be a very significant step backwards in the fight against organized crime. And the other point is that every year we have a new generation of potential gang recruits, a new cohort of fatherless, neglected, and often abused children coming in broken families who are available for recruitment into gang structures. We don't have a huge number of people who really organize and orchestrate and focus and direct the violence. That group we can address with better intelligence-led policing, but we also have to do something about the process of gang recruitment. And that means we need a really significant change in our approach to education and social work to stop the gangs from recruiting. And if we can do that, if we can shut off the flow of recruits into criminal structures and take down the criminals with better directed, focused, intelligence-led policing, and if we can sever the links between politics and organized crime. And if we can finally eradicate corruption and do away with the politics of patronage, then finally we can eradicate the roots of the problem in this country. And this country could again be, could actually fulfill its true destiny.
I know you have to leave, Prof. Clayton. Thank you as always for your time.
And
Thank you,
Dr. Thorburn?
Yes, I'm here.
And in the matter, as Professor Clayton pointed out, this is a marathon, not a sprint. But when and you get the comparison relatively frequently, when we compare ourselves to other countries which have essentially slashed their murder rates as a result of taking what we would consider extreme measures. You yourself spoke to the need for some political changes. What do you consider those to be in order to essentially keep us on this downward trajectory?
Well, first, I don't know if I'd even characterize it as a marathon. Some of the changes, the political type changes that both Professor Clayton and I are thinking about, are not necessarily things that will take 10 or 20 years. Some of the changes can be done in 5 years. And when we talk about political changes, we're talking about the way in which the communities where gangs are based, where they have safe havens, where they reproduce themselves. If you look at the communities where gangs are sourced, including where they get their recruits from, these are largely informal communities, meaning that the people who live there do not have legal tenure to where they live. Many of them are government housing communities, many of them are capture land settlements, but we know very clearly that violence, particularly shootings and murder, are concentrated in those communities. We've known that for a long time. That's not a new feature and it's not a new finding by any means. What we have not done as a country, even though we have set it out in various policies, but what we have not done is address those systemic issues of informality. When the mayor from Bogota came to speak in Jamaica the other day, someone asked him after the lecture, I wish that you would have spoken about how you reduced the murder rate in Bogota. And his answer was, that was easy. I just erased the slum. That was basically how they brought the murder rate down there, that they removed the informal community, which was the home to many of the gangs. The issue of gang recruitment doesn't become an issue if the gang does not have a place to have as its base. There's nothing there to recruit these young men. They can then take advantage of all the training opportunities, the skills training, the certification, and so on, all of these programs, because there's several of them. There's HEART, and there are many NGOs doing that kind of work in several of these communities. The issue is not that these opportunities don't exist for these young people. It's that they are just not attractive when there's a gang there that is offering them so much more in terms of prestige and status and, supposedly money.
Which is precisely the point I was going to, Dr. Thorburn, because it's going to be very difficult for any community intervention program to try to get those individuals to be involved when they are looking across the other side and they're seeing their friends buying expensive cars, buying expensive gadgets, when you have a social program trying to tell them, go and get a skill. That's a difficult hurdle that we have to cross, and I'm not sure we have that strategy in place to really convince these individuals that this is a better way of life instead of resorting to violence.
We're not going to be able to convince them. We've been trying to do it for 2 decades. Even the current Citizen Security Plan report, their own analysis shows that the take-up for the skills training and skills certification programs, these are the programs that are specifically designed to give unattached youth a different path to follow instead of joining a gang. The take-up for them is extremely low, and they're not being successful in diverting these young men from the gangs. The only way we're going to divert these young men from the gangs is if the gangs are not there for them to join. Once the gang is there, they're going to beat out any other option, any other training program. These training programs are not new. They've been going on for years. As one trainer told me when she stood in front of a group of young men trying to teach them entrepreneurship skills, the young man said to her, "Miss, we train till we strain."
We're almost out of time, Dr. Thorburn, but before you go, I had to put it to you based on what you just said then isn't the ultimate solution to make the gangs unattractive and unappealing through tougher policing?
No, the ultimate solution is to remove the conditions in which gangs are able to create themselves and recreate and reproduce themselves. That is the ultimate solution, and that is what lies in formalizing the communities where the gangs are based. That's the ultimate solution, and that can be done in 5 years. And this is already in our 2013 National Security Policy, which Professor Clayton himself wrote. So this is not a new issue. This is a long understood issue. You cannot deal with the issue of gangs unless you deal with the issue of informal communities. And that is not a long-term prospect. That is something that can be done in one election cycle if we're serious about it.
That is Dr. Diana Thorburn. She's the Director of Research at the Caribbean Policy Research Institute. And we had with us earlier Professor of Sustainable Development at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Anthony Clayton. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Thorburn.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
The headlines are next at 6.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is...
a minute after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz says the new CNG buses and new technology to be implemented should help to stop the long-standing problem of the theft of diesel from the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC. He was reacting to the seizure of several containers of stolen petrol seized in St. Catherine.
The theft of diesel oil at JUTC has been a perennial problem for decades. As you know, we have already ordered and cleared 100 CNG buses, with another 70 to come by June of this year, with a further 100 in the next financial year. And that will be moving away from diesel. There are also some plans to put in some technology to be able to track the diesel, both going in and out of the remaining diesel buses. So I'm hopeful that 25 will be the year that we put behind us the issue of the theft of diesel oil, which has been costing the JUTC and the taxpayers multi-millions of dollars per year. We have a plan.
The seizure was made during a police operation at a house in Lakes Pen on Thursday morning. Minister Vaz says other security measures are already in train to stop the theft of fuel from the JUTC.
The acting managing director, Owen Ellington, former commissioner, has been working closely with the police and the military in relation to the issue of the continuous theft of diesel oil. And I'm sure that we will see results in the coming year, 25, this year.
Darrell Vaz, Minister of Transport. The country recorded a surge in tourism arrivals between December 22 and December 30 last year. Senior advisor and strategist in the Ministry of Tourism, Delano Seavright, says close to 32,000 visitors arrived at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston over the period. He attributes the influx in part to the Joe Bogdanovich organized Freedom Street concert held at the National Stadium on New Year's Eve.
Nearly 7,000 more passengers landed at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston between December 22 and December 30, 2024, vis-a-vis December 22 to December 30, 2023. It was a busy holiday season indeed across the island, and there's no doubt that the Joe Bogdanovich led and organized New Year's Eve show accounts for a fair share of those increased numbers. To be more specific, between December 22 and December 30, 2024, we had about 31,646 arrivals into Kingston at the Norman Manley International Airport. And in 2023, between December 22 and 30, we had about 24,900 plus.
The event was headlined by Vibes Cartel. Several hotels in the corporate area also expressed that they were at full capacity as fans from all over the world flew in to celebrate the exonerated dancehall artist. Beyond the concert, Mr. Seavright says 18 private jets landed in Montego Bay, St. James in a single day.
We have really seen a lot of celebrities and high-profile persons vacationing in Jamaica over the Christmas holidays going into the new year. Last Monday we had 18 private jets coming into Montego Bay with a number of celebrities, including Hollywood A-listers. The former leader of a major European country is also vacationing, and a number of other celebrities spanning entertainment, fashion, and of course a number of very senior business leaders, global business leaders, who are also here vacationing. So we're very happy about that, and most of them are concentrated along the north coast and elsewhere around the island.
Delano Seavright, Senior Advisor and Strategist in the Ministry of Tourism. Public commentator and chartered accountant Dennis Chung says the launch of the government's Spark program will benefit Jamaica's economy.
It's definitely needed. I think it comes at a good time for the economy also, because, if you were to pump $46 billion into the economy, especially at the level of really what you classify as construction, that's a good boost. The fact also is that we are at a point where we have the lowest recorded unemployment numbers. So, combine this $40 billion coming into the economy with that, and also the fact that interest rates are trending down, I think it will give the economy a good boost and also filter down to the average person on the street.
The road repair program was officially launched last week. Mr. Chung says assuming the road repairs are carried out effectively, it could see the government gain favor from the public.
It should have a good political uplift for the government once implemented properly. I think that's going to be key. That doesn't mean that we should go out and just repair roads without doing the proper due diligence, the proper planning to ensure the proper drainage is there and all of that, which I'm sure will be considered. But it means that in order to maximize the benefits from it, they need to ensure that it's properly put in place. So we don't want a situation like what happened with St. Thomas, for example, where the roads were put in and then we had some digging up after that.
He believes the repair of troublesome main roads will also increase productivity, even as it improves the daily lives of many Jamaicans.
Back focusing on the main roads is a good thing, because if we can get it implemented where most of the traffic is, then I think that also would be a good thing. I mean, when you think about it, the thing that people treasure the most is really their children and their cars. And if you can put a program like this in place, start rehabilitating some of the main roads to get people moving more quickly, then it saves on time, it saves on fuel costs, it's productivity. So it's going to be a positive from an economic and political point of view.
Dennis Chung, Chartered Accountant. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Sports is next.
Public opinion.
Stop this foolish about this GLP and PMP business. We are a Jamaican.
Different people.
It's not a matter of a GLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public opinion. The voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Are you ready for it?
Revo. Coming soon.
Good evening with your sports report. I am Alric Swiby. We start things off with horse racing as the local racehorse fraternity is this afternoon mourning the passing of former trainer and the president of the Trainers Association, Vin Edwards. Edwards, who was president of the Trainers Racehorse Trainers Association, JRTA, for over 10 years, died today. He was 90. In 2007, he was honored by the JRTA for his long and meritorious service to horse racing. That same year, he was conferred the national honor, the Order of Distinction OD, for services to horse racing and community service. Chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, Solomon Sharp, says the passing of Edwards has left a void in the industry. Sharp says Edwards was an industry icon.
He trains some very interesting horses. So he has a storied career as a trainer, but most importantly, he was a real strength in the backstretch to all on the backstretch, and he tried to bring fairness and equality to the system. So a lot of administrators that would have been in charge of the track before would have felt his hand, and some would speak in a negative light. But in all establishments, and especially in sport, you need that one person, that one individual who is going to keep the administration on its toes, So I would say that there's a lot that Vin did for racing and the backstretch, and he's going to be missed.
Solomon Sharp. Edwards is survived by his wife of many years, Monica. Now to track and field, as 23 Jamaican athletes have made it into the top 10 of their respective events in the end-of-year global ranking of respected track and field magazine, Track and the Field News. The field event athletes figured prominently in the rankings. Wayne Walker tells us more.
On the men's side, the Olympic silver medalist Wayne Pinnock, he ends the year as the second best long jumper in the world, with his compatriots Kerry McLeod in fifth and Tajay Gale seventh. The world and Olympic champion Miltiadis Tinktoglu of Greece is the undisputed world number one. Roger Stoner, who broke the Olympic record to win discus gold in Paris, finished second in the end-of-year ranking behind Michaelis Alekno of Lithuania, with another Jamaican Travis Michael in 10th. Romain Beckford, who contested the Paris final, is ranked number 8 in the world in the men's high jump, while Jaden Hibbert, who just missed the podium in Paris, ends the year 5th in the ranking, with the Olympic champion Jordan Alejandro Diaz of Spain number 1. Olympic bronze medalist Rajendra Campbell ends the year 5th ranked in the men's shot put. The Olympic silver medalist Kishane Thompson ends the year ranked number 2 in the men's 100 meters, behind the Olympic champion Noah Lyles. Akeem Blake is 7th and Dublique Seville 10th. Rushan Clark 5th and Malik James King 10th are the Jamaicans in the men's 400 meters hurdles ranking, while Rashid Broadbell, the Olympic bronze medalist, is ranked 3rd in the 110 meters high hurdles, and Hansel Parchment in 7th. Shanika Ricketts, who won bronze in Paris, ends the year ranked number 3 in the women's triple jump, while Akelia Smith, who reached the Paris final, is ranked 6th. Daniel Thomas Dodd ended the year 9th in the women's shot put. Lamara Distin 8th in the women's high jump. In track events, Akira Nugent is ranked number 2 in the 100 meters hurdles, and Daniel Williams 8th. And Nikisha Price is ranked 7th in the 400 meters. Natoya Gould 7th in the women's 800, while Rochelle Clayton is number 4 among the women's 400 meters hurdlers. Cheyenne Summon is 5th, Genevieve Russell 8th, and Anjanette Knight 9th. Now, Tia Clayton is ranked 7th in the women's 100. The impressive showing by the field event athletes, in particular in the end-of-year ranking, is not a surprise to coaching legend Glenn Mills.
A special thanks to the field event athletes who, for the first time in the history of Jamaica's track and field, have outdone the sprinters and to save us from coming home without a gold medal. I also feel a certain amount of pride because I've been around a long time, thank God, and I remember back in the days when I was on the J3, and when we picked large teams and we hear the funds are low, the first category that they look to cut is field events. And so it has come full circle that now when they look, they will have to look at the sprinters first.
That's the Honorable Glenn Mills.
Thank you, Wayne. Now, National 100 meters sprint star Oblique Seville says he's motivated by a personal desire to honor the memories of his father, who passed away during the early stages of his career. The 24-year-old Seville was still a student at Homewood Tech when he lost his father. Seville, who later went to represent Calabar at Boys and Girls Champs, where he became 100 meters champion, has gone on to become one of the world's leading sprinters. The man, who reached the 100 meters final at the Paris Olympic Games last summer, says he runs with his father in mind every time he takes to the track, and he's determined to honor his name.
In my starting of my career, like high school, he was the one who always been there for me all the time. So it's just sad knowing that he didn't get to see me reach on this stage of my career and to make it this far. So sometimes you know that it maybe feel a certain type of way, but you have to just say, okay, if he was here, you know that he'll be happy and thing. But for me, I'm just glad that he actually motivates me before he died.
Seville is well advanced in his preparation for the upcoming season, and he told Nationwide Sports that things are progressing smoothly.
The preparation has been good because me and my team, which and my coach and everybody has figured out everything and has prepared a plan for me for this season. So everything has been going good. So it's just for me to just put in the hard work and put in the training and to see what result I can get out of it.
Seville lost a much-hyped 100 meters final to Kishane Thompson at the National Championships last year and finished well outside the medals in Paris. But he says his handlers are working hard to make sure there's no repeat of that.
The niggles that I have had last year is just for me to strengthen those niggles and to see how strong I can get for next year.
Oblique Seville. Jamaica's Colleges Ashenine Stadium will host the first two meets of the track and field calendar for 2025. These are the On the Run JC Sprint Fest tomorrow and the Pure Water JCR Danny Williams meet on Saturday. 400 meters junior and senior athletes, 196 males and 204 females have been registered for the 3-hour Sprint Fest, which is set to start at 2 p.m. The meet will feature only 200 meters. Coach of Wolmer's girls track team, Michael Carr, says he'll be using the meet to know where his athletes are in their preparation in early January.
To go to champs, it's a qualifying thing. We are the top, whether it be 30, 40, 60, whatever. So objection number one should be to get into that qualifying position, then we take it from there. So that would be objective. Plus, it's the first one for the season, see where we are, and whatever improvement need to be done, whatever consolidation need to be done, we work with that. So that's the purpose of the meet this weekend for us.
Michael Carr. The president of the Jamaica Olympic Association, Christopher Samuda, says head of the Commonwealth Games Federation, CGF, Chris Jenkins, suggestions to have multiple host cities for future games is the way forward. Samuda says having multiple host cities and indoor ceremonies could make the games more affordable.
Chris Jenkins is reading the temperature gauge and barometer of sport intuitively, and himself and his team at the Commonwealth Games Federation are really interpreting the Glasgow experience as a license to search practically and elsewhere for a shared services model in a tripartite city arrangement. It makes sense. As a sport entrepreneur, I have always long recognized that international and regional multi-sport games are no longer simply calendar events of physical culture, but have now become enterprises in which viable business models and and multilateral commercial undertakings determine the financial matrix and sustainability of games.
Australian state Victoria pulled out of hosting the 2026 Games due to financial constraints, while Canada province Alberta withdrew its interest for 2030. However, Glasgow has stepped in to put on a streamlined but exciting games in 2026, and Jenkins is about to invite expressions of interest for nations to host the next 3 events from 2030 to 2038. Samuda says the benefits of the multi-host cities formula far outweighs the risks.
Hosting the games across 2 or 3 cities may place at risk the camaraderie and unity of the sporting village atmosphere resident in one host city, and may dilute the signal and singular impact that comes with hosting it in one city. But the reality is that a plural approach will make more manageable resource allocation and give participating cities, which may never be able to host a Commonwealth Games solo, an opportunity to experience the friendly spirit and culture of the games. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a debatable topic for hosting games. But then, if there is a risk that it may collapse, then a stitch in time saves 9.
Christopher Samuda. Now to cricketers, Kusal Pereira slammed the maiden T20 International 100 to lead Sri Lanka to a 7-run win over New Zealand in Nelson on Tuesday to avoid a sweep of their 3-match series. Pereira belted 101 off 44 balls, the fastest by a Sri Lankan, as they posted 218 for 5 in their 20 overs. Pereira put on exactly 100 with captain Sharit Asalanka for the 4th wicket, with Asalanka making 44. Ravindra 69, Tim Robinson 37 and Daryl Mitchell 35 all contributed to a rich Kiwi response which just failed to overhaul the target, reaching 211 for 7. Asalanka bagged 3 for 50 and Wanidu Hasaranga 2 for 38. And finally, veteran cricket commentator Joseph Rez Pereira says sporting officials in Trinidad and Tobago are breathing a sigh of relief after they were assured that they'll be able to plan and execute various competitions despite a nationwide state of emergency. Authorities in the dual island nation imposed the state of emergency on Monday following a spate of recent killings linked to gang violence. The move followed what a local official dubbed an outbreak of gang violence over the weekend that saw multiple people shot dead in public areas. Authorities believe the brazen tit-for-tat shootings are between rival gangs seeking to expand territory in the capital city's Port of Spain. Pereira says the state of emergency will have a limited impact on the movement of TNT in TNT.
The initial worry when the announcement came after 623 people were murdered in Trinidad for 2024, that there will be a state of emergency. The first reaction was, how can the major sporting events in Trinidad and Tobago continue under a state of emergency? Well, the good news then came later, that there will not be a curfew on the public and people's lives can go about normally. Therefore, the junior Crifta Games, the planning can go on, people can attend, and the 4-day matches in the West Indies first class season in 2025, attendance can be held. And therefore, unless things change, the major sporting events will continue as per normal.
Joseph Rez Pereira. Before I go, let me say a blessed new year to my new best friend San and the entire YouTube family. I'm Alex Swiby, and that's your sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited, Customer Appreciation Week, December 16 to 20 is
6:22.
Does your bra ride up your back? Do your shoulders hurt from carrying the weight of your breasts? These are signs of an ill-fitting bra. When was the last time you were fitted by a bra fit specialist? The bra experts at LaBelle Femme will take care of you. Drop into the store at 53 Lady Musgrave Road, Tuesdays to Saturdays from 10 to 5, and you will see the difference. Or call 876-622-6091.
If it's in the public's interest, it's the nation's business during Nationwide at 5. The nation's business.
Are you ready for it?
Revo. Coming soon.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I want to wish each and everybody a happy new year. It's 2025, the first Public Opinion for 2025. Yeah? Good evening, a special one to our friends on our YouTube platform. Thank you for staying with us, through thick and thin, and 2024 and 2025 and beyond. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. We invite you to weigh in live in the comment section on today's Public Opinion. This one is a little bit more personal, yeah? And as we kick off 2025, there's no better time to ask, what are your New Year's resolution? Yeah? One resolution. What is it? Whether it's about a career goal, yeah? Whether it's about a career goal or personal growth, or, making a difference in your community. We want to hear from you. What is it that you have planned? So in Public Opinion, we're asking you, what are your New Year resolutions for 2025? And I'll start with the comments that are on our Facebook platform. Prince Wellington is saying to cheer on the IC and encourage them not to be deterred by threats and delayed tactics. All right. Clifton Ricardo Russell is saying a third term. Hashtag time come. Hashtag mark out. Okay. Wow. Michelle Bernard is saying, my New Year resolution, I never had one. Okay. Carlington Bartley is saying that his New Year resolution is for people to get back to basic building on fundamental principles which guide our forefathers in securing rights, many of which we now take for granted. Yeah, would you look at that? Anthony Shakes is saying long-lasting peace, love and prosperity for our country. And I think we would all want that. Yeah? Rosalind Buck, to pay more attention to my mental and physical health and more self-love. That is important. That is indeed important, Rosalind Buck, and I think we all should be there too, to pay more attention to our mental health, or mental and physical health. Yeah? And as well, more self-love. Natalie Winter saying it has come true already. That is good. That is to see the back of 2024 because the year has cost me so much pain and grief. Wow, and she's saying goodbye 2024. Yeah? Happy riddance. Oh boy. It's always tough whenever it is that you lose someone and you have to reflect. Yeah. Robert Ranger saying to be alive. That's his New Year resolution, to be alive. Yeah. To stay alive. Parchment is saying to love his fellow men more than, to love my fellow men more than I hate politicians. That's coming from Parchment. Wow. If you're just joining us, we're inside the Court of Public Opinion wishing you a happy new year. We're asking, what are your New Year resolutions for 2025 on X? Grace Davidson is saying good health, and good health. Yeah, we do definitely need that. Hyatt Herman is saying New Year resolution is to do less of social media and focus on my soul salvation. Wow, less on social media. I think I can agree with you there. Boss Lady saying, my New Year resolution is to do my part. Wow. Yeah, can't read that one. Some things in it. Yeah. But let me see if I can get to the comments on our YouTube platform. What are your New Year resolutions for 2025? We've read some on our social media platform. I'm gonna go and see what's happening on our YouTube. Yeah? Wow, I'm seeing some, let me see. Happy New Year, Rose McIntosh. Yeah? Greetings to you, Rose McIntosh. Happy New Year. Primrose, Cheerful Birds. All right, let me see if I can get in a few more. Willow Will says, get closer to God and JLP cement the third term. All right. Wow. The real, is that the real Chef Patricia is saying, Happy New Year, serving God more, learning to lean on God while waiting for wearing of bonnets in public to end. Yeah. Sharon Bless says, Robian, mine is to have a clean heart, no bad mind, and draw closer to God. That is it. Cheerful Birds, my New Year resolution is to see, that the PNP stay out of power. It's okay. It's okay. Concern Dunce says, I just feel like, Concern Dunce. Robian will be getting married this year, Concern Dunce? That's what you feel like? Oh my. Wow. Kamzi Archie, to grow closer to Christ. 1. 2, to eat better. 3, to eat better and take overall care of my physical health. 3, to exceed job targets and expectations. And 4, to keep in better touch with friends and family. Yes, Kamzi. That is indeed some good resolutions right there for 2025. Patrick Samuel saying third term. San is saying, thanks be to God, we made it across safe and sound. That is true. Everton Wilson says, for more work for young people. And MDL is saying to return to Jamaica to live. Yeah? Put things in place, MDL, and come back. Put things in place and come back. McHugh is saying, good health, but I now want... Let me go again. Good health, but I want low landing taxes so I can travel around the other Caribbean islands. Right now, it's too expensive. You and I both. I feel like I need to do some traveling this year. Yeah? I feel like I need to do some traveling. Let me see. Let me see if I can get in some more. Juliet Sanchez says, my New Year resolution is to get married. Yeah, it will happen. Make it happen, Juliet. Make it happen. George Alwood says, help load the third term. Let me see. Erica Smith, Happy New Year to you. Kenyatta Montgomery, my resolution is to get closer to Robian. Wow, see you in a few. All right. There you go, Kenyatta. I see you. Nicardo is saying to have better work-life balance and spending more time with your son and family. That is so good, Nicardo. Family time is always important. Always important. Alex Smith saying, Happy New Year to you too. My own is to see the back of those working at the Integrity Commission. Wow. Construction. Okay, Alex Smith, we see you. Mark Peart is saying, my golden future for Jamaica and the children. Yeah? Let me see if I can get in a few more. Michael Wright says, government is doing good, but I am a come and my time now. All right. Marjorie G says, God is my entire life with a clean heart. Dwayne Woody says, my New Year resolution may be, I have to go find a radio. Oh, wow. Would you look at that? Find a radio station. Oh, on off the ear early, nearly 2 weeks. Wow, him said, don't let that happen again. All right, Dwayne, I will speak with the powers that be in that regard. We'll definitely speak to the power that be in that regard. All right, let me see if I can get in a few more before I go. Getting the wrap-up signal. Ozra is saying, continue to be positive and not negative. And I second that one. Rose McIntosh says, traveling indeed. Traveling is my favorite pastime. David Nabar says, my New Year resolution is to see that JLP win the third term. Kevin, my New Year resolution is to have 28 bank accounts. Wow. All right, let me see if I can get in 1, 2. Student for Life is saying, God, the message skipped. But guys, 2025, make the best of it. Every second, let it count. Cherish the moments, the memories, especially with your families. Reach out to that family member who you not hear from all along. Mend the broken communication. Just be good. In all you do, just try to be good. Try to be good to people, especially, those who may not want to be good to you. Just be good to them, Too much hate. We've seen too much hate. So just give love. Please be safe in all you do 2025. Good health, good wealth. And we hope, we hope to stay alive. We hope and pray. And we hope for peace. I know many comments I read on social media praying for peace for Jamaica. Not only Jamaica, but for the entire world. That's all the time we have for Public Opinion. Thank you guys so much for participating. The first Public Opinion for 2025. We have a lot more to go.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:34.
Annual eye examinations not only assess your vision but may be life-saving. Eye tests may detect serious health issues that go beyond your vision. Call IQ Optical to schedule your comprehensive eye test today.
The temperature by IQ Optical is
27 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 23 out west in Montego Bay. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robian Williams. Tesla sales fell last year for the first time in more than a decade as demand faltered and rivals gained pace. The company, led by billionaire Elon Musk, delivered almost 1.79 million cars last year, down about 1% from 1.8 million in 2023. This comes despite the company lowering prices repeatedly last year in a bid to woo buyers and hold on to its rank as the world's top-selling maker of electric vehicles. China's BYD, however, looks set to close the gap after reporting 1.76 million electric vehicles sales in 2024. At the close of trading today, it cost 156 Jamaican dollars and 51 cents to buy the US dollar. It cost 194 Jamaican dollars and 13 cents to buy 1 British pound, and 109 Jamaican dollars and 109 Jamaican dollars and 7 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Robian Williams. Good evening.
Importers, clear customs, not your schedule. Download the JA Customs Connect mobile app from the Google Play and Apple App Stores and enjoy the ease to calculate your customs duties, search for tariff codes, track and trace your shipments, pay your declarations, and so much more, all in a click, right at your fingertips. So save time, save money. Download the JA Customs Connect mobile app today. It's fast, safe, and convenient. For more information, visit jacustoms.gov.jm. JA Customs Connect mobile app, powered by the Jamaica Customs Agency. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
If it's in the public's interest, it's the nation's business during Nationwide at 5. The nation's business.
As a parent, you give your children a good start in life. You nurture, protect, and guide them. Parenting is a process that prepares your child for independence. As your child grows and develops, there are many things you can do to help your child. Stay tuned to The Big Show, Nationwide this morning, for parenting tips. Fridays at 6:53 a.m. Only here will you learn everything you need to know about parenting. Tips to help parents navigate the incredibly challenging and rewarding journey of child rearing. Parenting tips on Nationwide at 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis, weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Alan Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast right here on Nationwide 90 FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Like everyone else out there, we're dads of varying amounts of experience who come from different backgrounds and often view the world differently.
We're definitely not perfect, but we are all brethren and we're all committed to this piece of rock called Jamaica.
Too often, there are no safe spaces for men to explore the issues which are important to us.
Plus, most of the content out there about parenthood is produced by women, for women. So we think it is important that we be the change we want to see.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaican Dads with a Z.
And definitely join us here on Nationwide 90 FM every Thursday at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m. for the Jamaican Dads podcast. It's a revolution in media.
Good evening, listeners and viewers. It's 6:40 and it is time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. President of the Small Business Association of Jamaica, Garnet Reed, is calling on government intervention to ensure commercial banks pass on the interest rates provided by the Bank of Jamaica to their customers. In a statement, Mr. Reed says the BOJ has reduced its policy interest rate for the fourth consecutive time this year, bringing it down to 6% per annum. He says, however, commercial banks have not adjusted their lending rates accordingly, leaving borrowers struggling under high-interest auto loans, mortgages, credit cards, and personal loans.
Consumer and business advocacy groups have expressed outrage, accusing banks of prioritizing profits over public interest and undermining the BOJ's monetary policy. Calling the behavior of commercial banks a slap in the face, Mr. Reed says they've acted like gatekeepers, keeping the benefits of the lower interest rates from those who need it most.
Small Business Association of Jamaica is demanding that the government intervene to ensure banks comply with the BOJ's policy changes. Mr. Reed says the longer this goes unchecked, the more damage will be done to small business community and the economy at large. He joins us now to discuss further. Good afternoon, Mr. Reed.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and all the best to you and your family. Now, talk to me. What specific actions would you like to see the government take to get commercial banks to reduce their interest rates?
Well, you know that the government have a lot of deposits with the commercial bank. What I need the minister to do is to meet with the commercial bank, and I'm talking about BNS, NCB, First Global, CIBC, JN Bank, all of the banks. None of them is reducing their interest rate to help the Jamaican business people, or Jamaican in general. We have had a number of calls from our members, small and medium-sized business operator, call us to let we know that they are paying between 15 and 18% on loans and mortgages, auto loan, credit card, etc. And to date, the bank is refused to reduce their interest rate. We also call upon the Jamaica Bankers Association of Jamaica, which is headed, and I don't know if this is conflicts of interest, because my very good friend, Ms. Tugwell, is the CEO of Scotiabank, and she's also the managing director of Scotiabank and also president of the Jamaica Bankers Association of Jamaica. I don't know if that is, I hope that's not the reason why the banks are refusing to reduce their interest rate.
But shouldn't your attention be drawn to the Bankers Association and not the government? Because we operate in a free market environment. The government did what they have to do through the BOJ, and you are now calling on the government, but the government has already done what they can do, and government intervention in banking practices could have unintended consequences because we operate in a free market environment.
Yes, we operate in a free market economy, but I mean, we cannot be unconscionable. We cannot be unconscionable to the Jamaican business people. Let me say this to you. This Christmas was not merry for a number of small and medium-sized operators. Some people report to us that they break even, and some make a little profit. So therefore, with the reduced interest rates, this would have helped small business operator. You go and said that no, we are calling upon the minister, and we sent her a letter asking her to mediate in this matter to see if she can help these business people who have been, affected by the high interest rate, up to 15 to 18%.
But, Mr. Reid, what can the government realistically do? As Sanjay pointed out, this is a free market economy driven by certain incentives. What could the government realistically do in terms of a mediation to get bankers on board in terms of lowering their interest rates in line with the Bank of Jamaica's own policy reductions?
Well, as I said that, governments have accounts with a number of these banks with billions of dollars. So there's something can be done.
So you're saying they should use those accounts as leverage, though? But wouldn't that send a bad message internationally, specifically on the global market, if they try to intervene in such a way?
Yeah, but how you look on this? Where the bank, the highest bank in the land, the Bank of Jamaica, reduced their interest rate 4 consecutive times, and the Jamaican banks refuse to reduce interest rate for the Jamaican people.
Because, Mr. Reid, banks
what message are you sending to business people? Upcoming people want to go in business. What message?
Because, Mr. Reid, banks are also businesses and they're operating to make a profit. Wouldn't it be better to call for greater competition?
They are making billions of dollars.
But that's how the environment operates, Mr. Reid. Wouldn't it be better to be calling for more competition among banks so that could force them to reduce their interest rates?
No, I don't think we need any more banks now. We have enough banks in Jamaica. We have enough banks here. I don't think the market can take any more banks. That is my personal opinion. What we need is the interest rate to reduce to help the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises.
I don't think Sanjay means necessarily you need more banks, but as he said, more competition amongst the banks.
More competition. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well. My understanding is that we get an email today that one of the banks is thinking of reducing their interest rate, and that's good news. We hope that, and I'm calling in the name, and I hope that other will follow likewise.
But how about sitting down with...
That's where the competition now would come in.
But let me ask you then, Mr. Reid, from your association standpoint, how about approaching one of these banks? Sitting down with the bank, the manager for the bank, to say, this is a situation, we're encouraging our individuals to invest, to spend more with your bank if you will reduce interest rate. Wouldn't that be a better approach than to try and encourage the government to leverage their accounts, which, as Siobhan indicated, that would be unprecedented, asking the government to use their power in that way to get banks to drive down their interest rates?
You know, small business is an engine of growth. And it's an engine of growth. And we give the government over $15 billion in taxes. We employ another 20,000 people. Therefore, we are asking for help. We're asking for help. We sent a letter to the Jamaica Bankers Association.
Mr. Reed?
I'm here. My phone is...
Hello, Mr. Reed, are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Go ahead, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, we sent a letter to the Jamaica Bankers Association of Jamaica to have a meeting with them. To have a meeting with them to look on the way forward. We hope that that meeting will set hopefully for next week. And I'm also saying I have not heard nothing from the private sector organization of Jamaica on this matter. I am not hearing nothing from the Jamaica Import and Exporters Association, even the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce. All these voices are very quiet. And I'm saying that we need help. We need help. We need help for the in the way of the reduced interest rate for the Jamaican people.
So let me ask you, you indicated that you have written to the Bankers Association.
Yes.
Is this your first time writing to them?
Yes, our first time writing to them.
Mm-hmm. And when did you pen that letter to the Bankers Association?
It was sent last week.
Right. So
and
last
our
week,
letter was also sent to the Minister of Finance.
mm-hmm. And from the PSOJ standpoint, have you approached the PSOJ to see how they could help?
No, we have not yet approached the PSOJ, but we have that on our agenda to do so.
So, Mr. Reed, I hear where you're praising the Bank of Jamaica for lowering their interest rates, but ultimately they are the authority in the country that deals with matters of commercial bank regulation, not the GOJ. That tie has been severed, essentially, where the BOJ is allowed to do as it feels and deems fit to keep the market in check. Why have you not directed that concern then to the BOJ and asked them what they intend to do about it?
Well, no. Well, we have not. We didn't think of that line, but that's a good move. We could look at that as well.
Because I understand the BOJ has announced some. They were vague in their pronouncement, but they announced some things that they intend to try and do to bring the banks in check, along with their long-awaited Twin Peaks model, which is a more long-term investment. But I feel you should push them on those matters of what are they doing in the short term to bring those commercial banks in line with their interest rates.
Well, that's a good idea. We're in communication with the Bank of Jamaica, and so that we can put that to them as well. That's a good move. But again, I am appealing to the commercial bank. I don't want to say that the commercial bank are unconscionable, but see what they can do to assist the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. As I mentioned, that this Christmas was not merry for a number of business people, small business operators and medium-sized enterprise. Again, the report we got is that some people have either break even or make minor profits.
So generally speaking, when you look back on the Christmas, for your members, you would say it would not have been a good Christmas at all. That's what you're saying?
Not a very good one. Last year was much better.
But tell me, Mr. Reed, is it a realistic prospect of calling on the Bankers Association essentially to hurt their own bottom line in the interest of the...
We are not I didn't call upon the Bankers Association to do nothing. I said to you earlier on, we send them a letter, hoping that we will sit down to have a meeting to find the way forward on this matter.
But if they felt that lowering the interest rates at a more rapid pace was in their best interest, would they not have done so already?
Well, as I said that, we I got an email from one of the commercial bank who's listen to me, hear me, and looking on it, and we hope that email hopefully that will bear fruits, and I hope that other commercial banks will follow likewise.
My challenge, Mr. Reed, with your approach is that you are, in my estimation, targeting the wrong set of individuals first. Because in my estimation, I would think that your association
I'm
would
going to
have...
ask you something, though.
Let me just finish the point. I would have thought that your association would have contacted...
The Bank of Jamaica reduced interest rates 4 consecutive times.
I hear you. Just let me finish the point.
You think it's unreasonable for the... Okay, go ahead.
Just let me finish the point. All I'm saying is I would have thought that the first set of individuals that you would have spoken to would have been the Bankers Association of Jamaica to understand why is it that the BOJ, having reduced their interest rates so many times, you have not done so, to get an understanding. And then from that understanding, then you could plan another game plan to see how we are going to get them to reduce their interest rates.
Yes. Okay. Well, we sent a letter to the Jamaica Bankers Association, and we hope that in that meeting it will bear fruits. But a letter was sent to them, Mr. Stockwell, and out of that meeting, we will see the way forward. So let's
that would be a better way. And when you get that response, then you can communicate with us to say this has been the response. We met with them. We are satisfied or we're not satisfied, and then this is going to be our next plan of action.
Okay. Well, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. So we will wait on the meeting with the Jamaica Bankers Association, and we'll also await a meeting with the Minister of Finance to find a way forward. And then you mentioned the PSOJ, and I think we will send them a letter, which we also sit on that board. We'll send them a letter to get an input on the situation where the interest rate is concerned with the banks, Jamaican banks.
That is Garnet.
But I just want to say something.
Go ahead, sir.
Some of these commercial bank is unreasonable. I don't know if you remember the dormant funds, what happened, what take place. And over the years, these banks have been unreasonable. There's so much things that happen. And media, we need your help. We need your help. That's all I can say. The banks in Jamaica, some of the banks, are unconscionable to the Jamaican people. And young business people is looking on, and they need to do better. They need to do more.
I think you will find no disagreements with us here on that topic, Mr. Reed, and I think you'll find that there's no disagreement also on the part of the government and the Bank of Jamaica on those same issues raised in terms of how many of the banks operate and the regulatory environment on its lack of oversight in terms of consumer affairs on the parts of commercial banks in the country. I don't think there's many disagreements there. It's how we tackle that, it seems to be where we run into loggerheads.
Yeah. That is true. If you talk to several business people, and you should have a program that you speak to small business operator, and they will tell you different story they come upon where the bank is concerned.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Reed, for your time. It was really appreciated.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to Nationwide.
That is Garnet Reed. He's the president of the Small Business Association of Jamaica, SBAJ. Well, Sanjay, I hear his concern. I know it's a concern raised by many small businesses, not just small business, but just Jamaicans in general, because when you hear that interest rates are going down and you look back at your own loan agreements, your own mortgages and other things, I say, well, it hasn't changed. When do I get that benefit? And I can understand the frustration.
And if we can go as far back as when Audley Shaw was Minister of Finance, it's something that he spoke about consistently, that he wants the banks to reduce their interest rates, and he besieged the banks. But the truth is, what else can the government really do? There's not much.
And interestingly, remember, this is what we're trying to get away from. Constant government putting their hands on the scales when they should not. That is what we've been trying to move away from. And we hope that the BOJ now takes up the slack. They've come up with new rules in terms of ATMs. They seem to be actively tackling this matter of proper oversights for bank in terms of consumer-related issues. And we can only hope to see if many of the things they're promising and touting as part of their Twin Peaks model come to fruition. And one of them is the reduction in know your customer concerns, which is the crux of the matter when it comes to competition among the banks. There is no incentive for me to go from, say, my account at Scotia to try and move it over to NCB or First Global, because the amount of hoops I have to go through would probably cost me more money than I would potentially save to change from the current bank account I have.
Yep. No, it's true. It's a constant problem that we have had for so many years. And as you indicated, we really hope, we have seen some positive signs from the BOJ, and we hope that the BOJ will continue to put pressure on these banks so that they can make it better for all their consumers.
Precisely, because I think at the end of the day, we operate in a simple matter. When it comes to regulations, you have incentives and disincentives. And you want to incentivize both the banks and the consumers to be able to operate competitively. And I think for the longest time, we've been so concerned with just following the rules, just to make sure that we're not blacklisted, just to make sure that we can do business overseas without them having too much scrutiny on how we're doing it, that these matters of proper consumer affairs and consumer relations in the banking sector has just been completely ignored over the last couple of decades.
Yep.
But that's it for it at 7 o'clock, listeners. We will have more after this regarding what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago and the declaration of a state of emergency. And also a little later, an interesting article penned by the Prime Minister himself in terms of the state of crime and murders in Jamaica after the break.
GK1 now introduces third-party motor insurance from GK General Insurance. Download and log into the GK1 app, then select one of 3 affordable third-party options. The time by GK General Insurance is
7:01.
It's flu season. Take DPH adult or children's formulation and eliminate your sniffling, coughing, sneezing, and itching. The temperature by DPH, minimize the symptoms, maximize the relief, is...
It's 27 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston, and a cool 23 degrees out west in Montego Bay.
Plug into the sun with Peak Energy Solutions. We are your affordable provider for everything solar. Grid tie or off-grid solar P systems, solar air conditioners, panels, lithium batteries, solar supplies, and installation. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hills, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the welcome back to the third hour of the nation's business. I am Sean Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, and we're heading over to Trinidad and Tobago because the government of Trinidad and Tobago says the state of public emergency now in effect across the country is in response to worsening gang warfare. In the formal proclamation issued on Monday, the President, Christine Kangalu, says the declaration is based on advice given by the police service to the National Security Council regarding heightening criminal activity. The move comes on the heels of a fatal shooting in front of a police station on Saturday and the killing of 5 men in an apartment on Sunday night.
Acting Attorney General Stuart Young says the regulations governing the SOE are being drafted. Interestingly, he says there will be no restrictions on movement or public gatherings.
There is not going to be any curfew. That decision is because the targeting of this national public state of emergency is on those who engage in criminal activity with criminal intent of endangering the public safety through the use of these illegal firearms, both high velocity as well as illegal handguns and the other likes. Those are the persons who are being targeted by this state of emergency. So this state of emergency at this time will have no curfew. It will also not seek to affect public meetings, public gatherings, and public marches.
That's Stuart Young. He is the acting Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago has a population of just over 1.5 million individuals. The country has recorded more than 600 murders since the start of the year. The police say the majority of the incidents have been gang-related. To join us to discuss further is the lead editor for News Gathering at The Guardian, Kajan Haynes. Good afternoon, Mr. Haynes, or good evening, I should say.
Hi, good evening. Just 600 murders last year. Remember, we're in 2025 now.
Oh yes, 2025. I need to get used to that. Talk to me though. What has been the public reaction to the declaration of the state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago?
It's mixed. As you would expect, a lot of these public reactions would be along the line of the party that you support. If you support the government, you are more inclined to support it. If you support the opposition, you're inclined to say it's a waste of time. Although, ironically, a couple months ago, the opposition was calling for a state of emergency to deal with crime. So the response now is it's too little, too late. But overall, I think the important thing is that everybody wants to deal with the crime situation. I don't think anybody has a clear answer on how to do it. So there are some people who will just say, listen, if this state of emergency, and this is like a lot of the business community as well, if this state of emergency is what it takes, fine, just do it, but do something. And I think that's where a lot of people are right now.
That's interesting, Mr. Haynes, that there seems to be consensus among all stakeholders in Trinidad and Tobago that a state of emergency is the next potential step.
Not necessarily. I mean, well, yes. I guess at some time or another, everybody would have called for a state of emergency. And I think now what's happening, you're getting that backtrack where people are saying, well, it's too late now. You should have called that 6 months ago, a year ago. And ironically, the Prime Minister himself was very adamant throughout his entire 9-year term, well, so far, that a state of emergency is not a solution to solving crime. Mm-hmm. So that is where we are now with it.
Yeah. And in our lead-in, we heard a clip from the acting Attorney General, and he mentioned that there will be no restrictions on movement or public gatherings under the SOE. And we know traditionally you're going to have curfews, you're going to have some form of restrictions. How effective can an SOE be without these traditional measures?
And we put that question to him directly. Let's backtrack a bit. The information that they got with this, and you mentioned it in your leading, that there was a gang member who was targeted as he came out of the police station as part of his bail conditions. And then there was reprisal shooting where 5 people died, most of them honestly innocent and not in gang activity. And that's what the authorities were worried about, that there will be even more reprisals. And in those reprisals, with the use of high-powered rifles like the AR-15s, they would target public spaces wherever their rivals may be. So they may be in the street and they will clear that out. So then we asked, well, okay, if that's what you're worried about, it's now carnival time. Everybody's going to be out. You're going to get a lot of crowds at night, and isn't this exactly what you're trying to prevent? You're trying to prevent mass casualties, but you're not actually restricting movement and the gatherings that would, prevent that. Their response was that they know where they're going, and the reason for the state of emergency really is to have that ability to search and seize without a warrant. It's a lot easier to break down someone's door, go into their house, do a search without a warrant when you have state of emergency enacted.
And based on that, what has been the reaction of the human rights advocates? Because I'm sure, based on that comment that the Attorney General, the acting Attorney General would have made, the matter of the Constitution and freedom that individuals should have now comes into question.
Yeah, that comes up a lot as well, too. Questions were posed to the police commissioner. Well, it's very easy now for your police officers to abuse their power. What if I have a police officer who doesn't particularly like me for whatever reason? He now has a lot more power under the state. People in the army, the defense force, who don't have powers of arrest, they now have that. So that is definitely something that people have raised concerns about. There's also a clause in the statute that says that you can't actually sue the government if you feel that you've been wrongfully detained during this time. And these are some of the things that people are raising concerns about. However, I will admit that they are in the minority because the country has been so gripped by the crime situation. You will find that people might be okay giving up a few liberties if it means getting things done. What they're less happy about is the additional roadblocks. But everything else, I think they're kind of resigned to maybe giving up a few liberties if it means safety in the long run.
So tell me, Mr. Haynes, I'm not sure what the policies in terms of the legislation, I should say, rather, in terms of states of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago. What is the initial period for it to run, and what is the process, if any, for a renewal and extension?
Right. So they have 15 days from the day of the proclamation. So the proclamation was on the 30th. They have 15 days before they go to Parliament to ratify it. That ratification takes you to 3 months. Then at the end of that 3 months, they have to go to Parliament again, and they can extend it for a further 3 months. But according to the Constitution, you cannot have a state of emergency more than 6 months at a time.
Mm-hmm. And because we understand that it ought to be a temporary measure, we have to look on what is it that the government and the security forces are doing over the long term. And we had a discussion earlier about crime reduction here in Jamaica. And one professor who was on our program indicated that there needs to be a more targeted approach. The police has to utilize greater technology. Intelligence has to increase, more investment in the police force. From your country's standpoint, is the government doing that, and are you seeing the police utilizing better intelligence to really deal with the gang-related issues in the country?
And that's really the thing, because when you speak to the authorities, you kind of get these buzzwords. I mean, we're doubling our efforts, no stone left unturned, and we are, and you get these things, and you're like, and we're working with intelligence, and you're wondering, and one of the major questions that people are asking now is, so where was all of this intelligence before the state of emergency? What were you doing before? What are you planning to do after? And it really is a whole of society approach as well. You have to think of, well, what are the parents doing in terms of if your child is coming home with a brand new sneakers and a gold chain for you, but your child is 17, where is he working? Those sorts of things are required, and it really is a much bigger, it's a whole of society problem that, quite frankly, I don't think many people know how to deal with it. At this point, I make this statement all the time, there's no benefit to being a good person beyond you just think it's the right thing to do. People are seeing there are benefits to crime, there are benefits to this life of crime, and being a good person doesn't seem to pay in that same way. And that's a sad reality that we're in.
And just finally from me, Mr. Jones, the matter of the state of emergency as part of as you said, the parliamentary opposition initially called for it, but have they since now expressed their intention to support the measure no matter how long it takes?
That's a good question. They right now, they're still in the state of it was too little, too late. I think the proof will come down to the pudding when it comes to a vote in the parliament. We'll see how they vote.
Well, please keep us updated on this matter. It's so much similar to what we're seeing happening here in Jamaica. Kejan Haynes, he is the lead editor for News Gathering at The Guardian. Thank you, as always, for your time.
Thank you very much.
I call you Mr. Jones. My apology there, Mr. Haynes. I had somebody else on my mind at that moment. My apologies. Kejan Haynes, lead editor for News Gathering.
I know you meant.
All the best. Sounds similar, Siobhan? We're seeing happening.
As many people seem to point out, the region, it's not while Jamaica is considered one of the most murderous countries, the region itself is considered one of the most murderous in the world as well. Things have really escalated recently in terms of violence, and specifically gang violence across many Caribbean countries, which are now waking up to the reality that they need to act and act decisively.
The biggest challenge that we see, and I said it earlier when I was speaking with Dr. Torburn, when you have these gangs, you have to look at the psyche behind it. You have these individuals who are the leaders of the gangs, who have their followers, who they protect, and who also protect them. The other thing that we have to look at is money. It's a quick way to get money. People want the nice things, and not many individuals, well, I shouldn't say many, but you have individuals who are not willing to do the hard work to get those fancy things. And it's something that is in my mind. How are we going to get rid of these gangs? Because to say that you're going to kill the gang leader, to say that you're going to eliminate some of the members, you have the new ones, as the professor indicated, who are coming up, who are planning to take over, and they're sometimes even worse than those who are already there. So it's like a problem that we're seeing, a rolling ball, and then we're trying to stop that ball from rolling, and I'm not sure we're getting a grip of the problem. Generally, it's not only Jamaica, but it's across the region.
Precisely. And as I said earlier, listeners, I don't know if you saw Sanjay in the Jamaica Observer this morning, where the Prime Minister himself penned an article under the title, "We Know What Works." It says, armed violence is a threat of epidemic proportion to the entire Caribbean, so I wholeheartedly sympathize with our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago, who ushered in 2025 under an unprecedented national state of emergency intended to stymie the violence they have been experiencing. He says, as in Jamaica, TNT's escalating violence is driven by the scourge of criminal gangs, which have festered in and around urban informal settlements. In Port of Spain, the murder of 5 people in one incident last week echoed some of the gruesome multiple victim incidents we experienced in Jamaica during 2024.
And the Prime Minister went further to say the Trinidadian authorities assessed that this gang-led attack would spark reprisal killings amongst rival gangs, which would also endanger innocent bystanders, and opted to invoke emergency powers to save lives. Similar reasoning informed our declaration of states of emergencies, SOEs, in Clarendon and East Kingston in 2024 after the multiple victim incidents at Cherry Tree Lane and Rockfort, respectively. He indicated that state of emergency is a tool in the National Security Toolkit provided for under the Constitution of Jamaica. My administration has judiciously employed that tool based on the careful assessments of security force analysts when it is necessary to stave off the imminent loss of lives. To do otherwise, he says, would be negligent in our duty to every Jamaican citizen.
The Prime Minister says, now think of the lives that will be lost to violence this year, even as the number of murders in Jamaica fell by 7.8% in 2023 and then by 18.9% in 2024, and we expect the decline to continue. He says the reality is that hundreds of lives could still be lost to violence in 2025. However, this is not an inevitability. He says we can achieve more substantial reductions in homicides by deploying every available tool to disrupt the violent gangs responsible for the majority of murders. He says around 70% of murders in Jamaica are committed by gangs. Remove them, and our murder rate would plummet as it has in El Salvador. The Prime Minister says when our administration assumed office in 2016, Jamaica faced an overwhelming crisis. Gang violence had expanded unchecked, with over 350 gangs operating nationwide. He says the homicide rate had risen by 34% over 2 years, and the national security apparatus suffered from years of neglect.
He continued, indicating that in our 2017 budget, we tripled capital investment in national security to strengthen and modernize our security forces. We put in place a proper executive structure to develop and implementation policies coordinated by the National Security Council. Those policies have been filtered mainly through the Jamaica Defense Force, the JDF, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF, the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, and the Jamaica Customs Agency. In 2017, he indicated that we also introduced zones of special operations, that's the ZOSOs, whose effectiveness in reducing crime and revitalizing communities in conjunction with localized SOEs have been widely recognized and studied across the region. The main challenge using the effective violence reduction measure, that is SOEs, has come from the opposition and from those who do not understand its role in lowering the homicide rate, not just in the short term, but also in the medium and long term. From the onset, it was clear that the investments in the security apparatus and the ZOSOs alone would not bring violence down to normal levels by global standards. The SOEs were instrumental in making those additions maximally effective. And he indicated that we declared our first SOE in St. James in January 2018, an important function of which was to detain the violence-producing members of active gangs as identified by military and police intelligence in the targeted areas.
Yes, so the Prime Minister is really batting for the SOEs. He says in March and September that year, we extended SOEs over to St. Catherine North and sections of the corporate area, respectively. And throughout that year, the opposition's People's National Party supported the measures by voting to support renewal of the SOEs in Parliament. However, he says by the end of the year, homicides had fallen 22% compared to the previous year, the largest single annual decrease for over a decade prior. However, yet in December 2018, the opposition withdrew its support for SOEs, refusing to support the extensions requested by the security forces, and one cannot help but wonder whether the opposition, after having supported the SOEs through the year and observed their effectiveness, withdrew support to prevent the ruling party from gaining political capital from the success of the measures. He says from 2019 onwards, the opposition members of parliament would only support our use of SOEs in reaction to surges in violence rather than a proactive measure to aid in a steady reduction in homicides. And as a consequence, homicides began trending upwards again, increasing by 14.5% by the end of 2021. He says when the Governor General declared SOEs across 7 policing divisions that November, the PNP again refused to support an extension after the initial 14-day period. He says opposition leader Mark Golding put forward the notion that pre-trial detentions, even of known violence producers, deprived those people of their civil liberties. The opposition's primary argument, he says, centered on civil liberties, ignores the lived realities of residents in gang-dominated communities. These residents, deprived of safety and freedom by gang violence, endure restrictions on their fundamental rights, including their right to life. SOEs restore safety, empower communities, revive commerce, and allow children to move and play freely. Outcomes strongly supported by the very people living in affected areas.
And the Prime Minister, in continuing this article that he wrote in The Observer, he says opposition leader Mark Golding has also been inconsistent. In his 2024 budget debate, he proposed legislation to facilitate pre-trial detention of known violence producers, a measure already achievable under SOEs. This approach reveals a disingenuous strategy. Delay proven measures in favor of lengthy legislative processes, achieving the same result but at greater cost to the lives and public safety. Meanwhile, the time wasted on political posturing allows gangs to regroup and violence to persist. SOEs, he says, have demonstrated that clearing out violence producers is an effective measure in quelling armed violence in volatile areas and is a necessary precursor for subsequent measures to hold the community, give the residents some breathing room, and then employ transformative interventions to build the community. He says, I want to take this opportunity to commend the security forces and make special note of efforts of the men and women of the JCF and the JDF. The significant and welcome fall in homicides last year, down to 1,139, is solid evidence that this strategy carried out by their efforts works.
And the Prime Minister also makes quite a bold promise here. He says the policy of focusing on gangs using intelligence, investigation, and prosecution has resulted in the destruction of several major gangs and cut down the number of these armed groups by more than half since 2016. And he says, and this is important, we are now at a point where we expect that these strategies will continue to yield results and we will see fewer than 1,000 murders for 2025. The Prime Minister says it is clear, though, that the criminal gangs are not only stubborn and persistent, they are also intelligence-driven and will adapt to the new inhospitable environment that they have created. This means that the country must continue to change strategy to pivot to the next chapter in combating armed violence. He says SOEs will always be a tool to be applied in that fight, and the anti-gang legislation, though laborious, has been effectively used to wind up gangs. However, the country needs new legislation to proactively control, deter, and divert individuals likely to be involved in gang activity. As such, the Prime Minister says, central to the safety and security pillar of Aspire, the policy pivot to achieve inclusive national growth will be the promulgation of the Enhanced Security Measures Act, the ESMA. This emergency legislation will formalize the power to interdict individuals who intelligence determines are of the greatest threat and to separate them from the communities affected by armed violence.
And the Enhanced Security Measures Act is necessary, he says, because the opposition's inconsistent stance undermines the reliability of the SOEs as a long-term tool for violence reduction. Without a unified approach in Parliament, our ability to use these emergency powers when and where they are needed remains precarious. This legislation will eliminate reliance on short-term political approvals, providing the security forces with the clarity and the authority they need to dismantle violent networks decisively, this within the Constitution and under judicial oversight. In the interim, we will continue, he says, to use the emergency powers under the SOEs in a way that does not in any way impair or inflict undue harm to the rights of the Jamaican citizens. And he closed by saying, my administration remains steadfast in its duty to protect the lives and freedoms of every Jamaican, especially the most vulnerable among us. We will continue using every constitutional tool at our disposal, balancing security needs with the preservation of civil liberties. We will, he says, not rest until we build a safer Jamaica, where children can walk to school without fear, that parents can build better futures for their families, and that businesses can thrive in peace. We will not rest until every Jamaican has a chance to live in peace and work to pursue the promise of a brighter tomorrow. And that's from the Prime Minister of Jamaica.
A very lengthy article there, listeners and viewers, but we felt it necessary to read that one into the public record as it was penned by the Prime Minister himself and carried in the Observer this morning, where he has essentially outlined what he sees as the issues facing the country, how he intends to address them. A very bold assurance that he expects murders will fall to fewer than 1,000 for 2025. And I suppose, yes, a further 19 to 20% reduction would put us below that mark. But we will see how that turns out at the end of 2025, as well as it seems that we will soon have that Emergency Security Measures Act that we've been long anticipating, that I understand also had the support of the opposition, but with how the Prime Minister's worded it here, suggesting that he's essentially going to use it to circumvent the opposition when it comes to using enhanced security measures. I don't know if the opposition is going to be very, very supportive of that kind of wording.
One of the things that I have said for a very long time, Siobhan, is that this Enhanced Security Measures Act may be that tool that the government needs, because it was very clear that the opposition would not continue to support the utilization of SOEs. And I have long said that why is it that the government is taking so long? And I've put that question to Dr. Chang when I was at a previous radio station to say, this is something that you have utilize that, because it's very evident that the opposition is not going to support the continuous utilization of SOEs. The other thing too, Siobhan, that we have to realize is that crime, and Professor Clayton said it, you cannot expect any massive reduction in crime over a year or 2 years. And I remember Gordon Robinson in 2018, he wrote an article and he said it. Anyone who expects, and this is me, this is not a direct quote, but in a sense, what he was saying is that anyone that expects any dramatic reduction in crime, they're dreaming. It's not possible. It's not going to happen. Yeah, but if we can see that gradual reduction, and it's going to go over different administration, that's the only way, which is why the politics of crime, that politics has to be removed, because any administration that is in power is going to have this problem of crime. So if you're not supporting the current administration, be it JLP or PNP, it's going to be your problem eventually. So what are you going to do to help at this very moment to join with whomever the government is to try and solve the problem of crime? And that's how we have to look at it.
Well, I mean, I think a dramatic reduction is possible, but as the Prime Minister pointed out, in that release, when we're trying to look at countries like El Salvador, how you accomplish that dramatic reduction might be measures that, considering what we're already complaining about, let's just say many Jamaicans are complaining about just the state of emergency being used currently.
Which supports my point.
With what they accomplished in El Salvador by simply just saying, okay, you're suspicious, you're going into a prison. You don't get any right to appeal. You don't get to say anything. You're suspicious. We consider you suspicious. And they did that for what? 7,000 individuals?
Yes.
But by doing that, they were able to reduce, and I think people need to understand it, in the course of a year, they reduced their murder rate by 70%.
But Siobhan, given our constitution and how our constitution is written, is that possible? It's not.
Not possible.
Exactly. And so my point still stands. It's not possible unless we are going to go back to Chapter 3 of the Constitution, our fundamental rights and freedom, to say we are going to make changes to that. We cannot employ the El Salvador model.
And even though what the Prime Minister says here in terms of the ESMA, I don't know if how he outlines it here, where he would be able to avoid a fight from the opposition in terms of the legality of it. I can see, well, we have to wait what the final legislation looks like when it comes out, but if he's suggesting that under the ESMAs he'll be able to use the kind of state of emergency powers that currently exist without the input of the opposition, I see no way where the opposition will not challenge that and send that all the way to the Privy Council if necessary in terms of a legal challenge to that kind of legislation. But we'll have to wait to see what the ESMA actually looks like, what it is in its final form. But I am happy to see that it is coming out. I think it's been in discussion now for 3-4 years at the start of the Prime Minister's second term, and we've still not seen that document. I hear it's held up because of concerns over wording and other issues and the support of the opposition in terms of what aspects should be in and what should not be in it. So I'm happy to see that we're finally going to have that tool and examining it to see how it is going to be used and how effective it will be.
Yeah. Indeed.
So, listeners, it's now time for your calls. The numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. Please come chat with us.
Z Jamaica Robotics Conference, Tuesday, January 7, 2025, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Jamaica Pegasus Ballroom, celebrating the achievements of over 100 students and teachers who have achieved certification. Special guest speaker, Dr. Denzel Williams. Presentation by Zebra Robotics Canada. Sponsors, Lasco, Mothers, and Optimity. Tickets available for purchase at ztechnologies.aitix.com or contact 876-880-3301 or 876-499-3157. And tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast live from the Z Robotics Conference, Tuesday, January 7, 2025, at the Jamaica Pegasus Ballroom. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by Z Technologies.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Marlon Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast right here on Nationwide 90 FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Like everyone else out there, we're dads of varying amounts of experience who come from different backgrounds and often view the world differently.
We're definitely not perfect, but we are all brethren and we're all committed to this piece of rock called Jamaica.
Too often, there are no safe spaces for men to explore the issues which are important to us.
Plus, most of the content out there about parenthood is produced by women, for women. So we think it is important that we be the change we want to see.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaican Dads with a Z.
And definitely join us here on Nationwide 90 FM every Thursday at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m. for the Jamaican Dads podcast. It's a revolution in media.
Welcome back, listeners, to the third and final hour, last 25 minutes for your calls. The number is 630-937-124 and 618-8255. And I think you even predicted it, but the first caller for the 2025 New Year's for Nationwide at 5. Carl, good evening.
Evening.
Good evening, Carl.
Year.
Happy New Year to you, Carl.
Good evening, Carl.
Yes, man. Anyhow, they have one little finishing to do it concerning Michael Phillip last year. So I want to teach him some ideas on how you come with policy as an opposition in a waiting. But I'm not giving him no ideas. I give my government ideas. I mean, I have no time to waste with no opposition now. Anyhow, finish clean up the opposition concerning the election or come what the government need to do is move the threshold move up the threshold to $3 million.
Carl, that's not happening. Not happening, Carl. I'm sorry, Carl, that's not happening.
Hold on, liquor, man. Hold on, liquor. Move up the threshold to $3 million. And
Carl,
that will take one.
I'm fairly certain that it's something like, what, $60 to $70 billion? Carl, I don't see that happening. I'm going to be realistic with you.
You can't say that. We have a government in the office. We doesn't have a person who don't know how to fix the economy to get all of these things.
Yes, Carl, but set the thing, set it as a reasonable target. Don't set people expectations so high that they get disappointed when it doesn't reach.
So how you did have an opposition, we never even know how to work it out, they tell you to bring it up to $3 million and people did buy into him rubbish.
No, but Carl, let's be brutally honest. Nobody, Carl, but let's be brutally honest. Nobody believed that was realistic. I don't even think the opposition believed that was realistic because when it came time to explain it in the budget presentation, you realize it was completely ignored.
Chev, if you can't work out something, how could you come and discuss it in our budget? It's simple, no, Chev. It's simple maths that. Anyhow, I will tell you, sir. And out of the $45 billion we're going to spend on the road, they try and make $20 billion run before election. Make most of the road them start to fix. Here the icing on the cake now. You carry back the GCT from the 16% to 1.5.
Wait, as in to reduce it by 1.5?
Reduce it to 1.5.
So you want him to reduce 1%. GCT by 15.5 points?
No, man. You take off 1%.
Oh. So you mean bring it down to 15.5?
Right.
Okay.
Because it still junk, man.
It seems like you're trying to kill the country when you said it initially, Carl.
No, man. Chef, you still seem like you're in a Jamaica now and see so much happen, but you still take you're young, saying you never know what they've gone before. And now, I went sometime this month, maybe go check back my date. The government will be giving all 18 to 25-year-old $20,000. Chef, that means to say something is looking good in the economy. You don't need you don't need to change your glasses to see that. The only way somebody can give up those things, Chef, something have to happen. So carry the GCT, take off the 1%, and take it to 15. That will be the icing on the cake. It will free up a lot of money.
And you think that they can then use that money to further, essentially, get the economy growing further? As the 1.5 they do as well. Stimulate the economy. I recognize that reasoning, and it works to an extent, Carl, because who better to spend their money than the people who have the money? They know what they want to spend it on. Which is why economies around the world support direct cash transfers, because you give the money to the people so they can spend it on what they feel they need to spend it on. So yes.
Me in an election here no. Just I am in. As come next week, Tuesday, after a Prime Minister, things go back to the court. Me in a full campaign. I am now steaming up. So I'm putting all these things to the government to take to cabinet to see how much them can put it and take off the 1% off of the GCT and free up money more in our country.
Remind me, Sanjay, what is GCT current? Isn't it 16?
I think that's 16.5.
No, wasn't GCT reduced to 15%? Let me just
is it 15%?
Yeah,
because I see somebody on YouTube saying it's at 15%, but
it's currently at 15%. It was reduced, I think, in April of 2020, if my memory serves me correct.
Okay, so that would put it down to 14%. Okay,
let's take it to 14 then. Free up more money. Anyhow,
but remember, in the car, that's still the government giving up a lot of revenue, you know.
Yes, Chef. But Chef, the economy is doing well still. So to where we was 2016. So if you pump more money into the system, then people will spend more money.
Well, some individuals have said though that the GCT is a catch-all tax.
Yeah.
Everybody has to pay. Better, right? It says better to reduce on PAYE as opposed to reducing GCT, because you're getting more people in the tax net when you're charging the GCT. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Because everything where you don't have to buy there, so you will pay that GCT. I understand all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. But at the same time, you have to consider for people to have more spending power.
Mm-hmm.
So the government will give up that. But the more the people spend, is the more still GCT would have come in and then coffin.
And I suppose that is the logic behind it, you know, that is going to drive consumption. And as a result of driving consumption, you essentially end up with more taxes than you would have given up. But, Carl, I don't know.
Anyhow, before you run, I mean, no, time is limited. I heard Dennis Chung call upon Jam last week, so they have no more integrity left. And I thought we thought if first 2025 January here, we'd have heard something from the head that, I have lost credibility. So I need to step aside and make somebody else be at the head there. Chevron, I hate when people lost credibility and still try to hold on. Sometimes when them people do things, them feel to say it's a GLP government you are hurt. And those fools, you call them idiots, doesn't understand, say, when they take up their country and send it around the world in a scandalous way like that and know say it's wrong. It's not Andrew you're hurting, it's your own country. And you notice when Jam came, we'd say him apologize and withdraw the day when the JLP win with the DPP, that is cutting them discussion into the DPP argument. And they want to take Jamaica people for fool.
I don't think, to be fair to Jump and Jeanette Calder, Carl, I don't think that was the intention of Jeanette Calder. And I know Jeanette. Jeanette is a wonderful lady. And I was happy that they published that apology. But I don't think that was their intention at all.
Sanjay, I want to tell you something. You know what me hate when people stay behind and they have on their green shirt like me. Anywhere me go, me green. Anywhere them go, them are orange and have on their orange clothes. But then stay behind, whether a microphone or behind a group where they have. I'm afraid to just tell the Jamaica people, say, yeah, you support the PMP or call is a for you hear me talk, nobody not ask who me
well,
is.
You show your hands from the start, so that's
right. You show me hands. But you know what them do? Them stay behind and fight the government. But when they fly in an NCS, them refuse to come out and step aside.
But give Jump little credit though, Carl. They did come and apologize. Give them little credit.
I don't accept that apology.
As I would expect. Carl, we have another caller on the line.
I beg you 2 seconds more. I hope it's not the lack of integrity commission is investigate Linders Road. I would prefer to go with Mocha. Anything when Mocha tell me, I will believe it, but not that body anymore, where Greg Christie and Pantan is.
All right, Carl. All right.
All the best.
Cleveland, good evening.
Yes, good evening to you both. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, sir.
And I wish you and the station all the best, as usual.
Thank you, sir. And the very best for you and your family.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Janet, what's your name? Calder.
Jeanette Calder. Mm-hmm.
Calder. The apology don't worth it because the damage has been done. And you usually find that people don't listen back to apology. And it was done. Hardly anybody hear it. When she's saying what she's saying about the Australian government, misinformed government, it was well out there. And the whole world know it. I don't think the world here that
but Cleveland, but hold on. Can you really blame Jam for it not getting that attention as the initial story? Because remember how news operates. Yeah? The initial story is big news. They publish the apology, but they don't get the push that they would have gotten with the initial story. It's just how the news cycle works,
Look here. They deliberately make that happen because that's their plan. They deliberately make that happen because they know nobody now hear the apology. And how they do it
but
make it work.
How? They did the same thing as they would have done the initial story. They sent it to all the media outlets. But if the media outlets decide that they're not carrying the story, you can't blame Jump.
Well, you just show yourself the media outlet is biased.
I'm fairly certain every media
that day, though, to be fair, that day was a very heavy news day. To be fair. So in the order of things, that story would have been very low in the news cycle.
No, at the first part, it wasn't low. It wouldn't be low, but the apology would be low. And it's a deliberate thing. Anyhow.
I don't think it was any deliberacy on the part of Jam to release it on that
Yeah,
day.
man, it's deliberate. It's deliberate. I don't know what the JLP do to these people. But anyhow. Marky, I'm not against them looking into government thing, but how they're going about it, they're too political, man. And if they stop it, make people have respect for them. No one then I take a 30.
Hold on, I want to correct something. Not correct, but I want to explain something. Someone says, why is it low? I'm not saying that the apology from JAMP is not important. What I'm saying is on the day that it was published, please understand that lots was happening on that day. It was the same day with the matter with the DPP. So
and
clearly in news and some other stories. Yeah, so therefore, in a news cycle, you're going to focus more on the bigger news than the apology from
all that could have planned to.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not important to that listener who made the comment in the YouTube chat.
Hello, young people, a long time here and there, I'm a listener, I just read into these people. They know what they're doing. Anyhow, I take a 30 bus. 30 bus run from Kingston to Price Right. You people know Price Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And man, on the Walton Park Road stay bad. The amount of garbage on that road. Oh my God. It'll take about a month or more to move those garbage from the roadside. It looks as if the inner road, they bring out the garbage, come put at the front. And the truck not picking it up fast enough. A lot of garbage. So I need to talk to Mr. Mandir about it.
I think the NWA is doing... Not the NWA, sorry.
The NWA.
The NSWMA is doing the best it can, because what I found is that the way we dump garbage is well beyond what the NSWMA was created to handle. Because
yes. I believe that. But man, something has to be done, man. And the next thing, the road full of pothole. No, so them have to do some emergency work on that road, on Pembroke Hall Road. Pembroke Hall Road, oh my God. Some big craters. I think some of those places should be emergency fixing.
I think some of them might be, Carl, because I recall I came
here...
my
name Cleveland.
Sorry, Cleveland. I came here, I believe it was just the 2-3 days before we were wrapping up for Christmas, and said that Patrick Drive, that road was terrible. I mean, there was a crater across it where the only way around it was to go on either sidewalk.
Yes.
And by the time I quint, when Christmas Day come round, they fixed the road.
Boy,
I was shocked. I was shocked as to how fast it done, because I came out in the morning, them throw down some marl, and I said, all right, looks like they're in the process of fixing it. By the time I come back the evening, well paved over and well and proper clean up. And I was like, that is impressive.
Some of them roads need emergency, especially with the traffic, the amount of traffic that run on those roads. Now, so them have to try and do something about it. I'm happy for Sparks, and just that it will get off the ground and be successful. But man, some areas definitely need some quick attention. The JUTC with losing their fuel. I wonder if those people know that is corruption. Whoever doing it, they don't know that it's
Of course they know that. Of course they know that is corruption.
Come on, long-standing problem. A long-standing problem at the JUTC.
Because the poor people, they must set back. Because the poor people want to take the bus. Right? Yeah. And if they're going to thief the fuel, what will happen?
You see, sometimes we do some things, Cleveland, and then we point fingers at the government. Yeah. We stone the buses, then you complain that you don't have enough buses on the road. You steal the gas, and then you complain that taxpayers are paying so much. It's a problem, yeah.
They must stop it. Did you hear the leader of the opposition, our PMP and the MP members commend the police for the good work they're doing?
I can't speak to that, Carl. I've not seen anything regarding the recent crime statistics from the People's National Party.
Well, not even since him give him New Year's speech, and so nothing about it. All him worrying about is that the government must look at the police, them election, and come and what have you. I can catch him afraid already, and what have you. But I don't hear they commend the police at no time for anything, and I think they're doing a good job, and they must come out and say it. Them don't wait, and if they think so, they're going to win election. No, they might look for a way to support them.
Well, Carl, all I can say, and sorry, Cleveland. All I can say is, and you can take this with as many grain of salt as you want, considering your allegiance, but the People's National Party internally, they are quite confident that come before end of 2025, they will be in God House. They will be the ones in the majority in God House. They are quite confident of that.
Then they can't wait till them win election to commend the police then. They must commend the police now. Start from now that we can believe in them that, whatever they say come from their mouth, we'll accept it.
Well, I think Sanjay said it quite best today. You don't want to tear down
election, I don't think talking about them not saying anything.
Sanjay said it best, that you don't want to tear down an institution that you might one day end up being in charge of. And I don't think it can be said much better than that.
That's what I see happening. You see? And when you get some time, you tell us what is happening to Proven. Okay. Good evening.
All right, Cleveland. Omalo, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Sanjay. Good evening, Sharon.
How you doing?
Hope you have a peaceful and productive new year.
Thank you, and the same to you.
Thank you. You know what I think the Ms. Malou Ford should look into? I think she should look into circumstantial evidence in dealing with these gangs. Sometimes the direct evidence, it's a little bit of a problem to come by. I think it's time for us now to start look at the circumstantial evidence when they come on to deal with gangs.
But I think that is the intent of at least an aspect of the ESMA, the Emergency Security Measures Act, in that rather than having to build up this big broader case, you'll be able to look at an individual and say, based on their history, based on these events, we are reasonably assured that they are a significant contributor to gang violence, and you're able to isolate them. What that isolation means, I'm not sure if it means arrest, detain, or essentially put them under some kind of additional surveillance, but you're able to isolate them from the rest of the public and point out that this person is a known violence producer or a known...
You could use the circumstantial evidence also to get conviction. Because one of the things is that you will see even on social media and TikTok, people declaring themselves to be a part of gangs.
In the criminal terminal, though, Omar, it's called preponderance of evidence, because you can have circumstantial evidence, as in enough of it to be put together to convict someone. It's what they consider the preponderance of evidence, not necessarily whether it's circumstantial or not.
Yeah, I'm giving you a scenario as to people declaring themselves to be a part of gangs that we know that are criminal organizations. Yeah? Where they even name themselves to be a part of the gang and name themselves to be a part of the neighborhood that the gang come from. And it's not somebody telling the police that these people are saying these things. These people are saying these things out their mouth on social media. So I think it is time. Yeah, we don't even have time to wait for this piece of legislation to come out.
So you mean someone going on social media and acting like a scammer, you should treat them like a scammer, or something like that?
You are declaring that you are a scammer, and you are giving quite a bit of evidence that you have scamming paraphernalia and stuff like this, yeah? And you are telling people what you're doing scamming. You should be treated as one.
But I'm remembering that the security forces gather their intelligence and do their checks and those things. And don't think just because they're not announcing it and making a big statement about it does not mean they're not doing these things, Omalo.
You need to stop doing this, Siobhan. You need to stop being an apologist for everything.
No, but this is not a matter of apologism. I'm just suggesting, are you suggesting that the police simply say, oh, when somebody go on TikTok or something and does X and Y, it's brought to their attention that they just say, we can't do about it.
A lot of people that have been arrested from TikTok, that they do something on TikTok, the police see it on TikTok and goes out and arrest them.
Just like that.
Just like that.
And Omala, do you believe that? Hold on. Do you believe that can stand in court?
If it can stand in court?
Yes.
So why would the police go and pick them up in the first place?
And the question that I ask is the police even decide? No, but hold on.
On the media saying that this person do this, and the police later on, you hear, even on the news media, you hear the news media, the people in the news saying, I hope the police go and pick him up. And now you all are saying that.
So if I go on TikTok and hold on, so if I am on a TikTok live and I say on the TikTok live, I am a scammer, yeah? It means that the police should come and scoop me up and lock me up because I have declared that I'm a scammer.
And I can tell you.
And then how would that stand before the court?
All right, Omalo. This will have to be argued another time. I'm getting the wrap-up signal and the evil eye. So I thank you for your call, Omalo. And thank you all, listeners, viewers, for tuning in for this first edition of the 2025 Nationwide at 5. I am sure we'll have many, many more. Thanks to our super producer, Dana Davey, our technical operator, Andrew Glenn, the Bugs Anderson, all my friends and compatriots in the newsroom led by the capable Cara Powell. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, wishing you a wonderful evening, and remember, all the best for 2025. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Are you ready for it?
Revo.